All right, looks like that did it. Can you see or hear me right now, chat? Let me know. Beautiful. All right, welcome everybody back to Paleontologizing. Day 26 of our dinosaur dig out here in southern Wyoming. Site again today with Fisher McDermott. We're going to be digging some more fossil microvertebrates. I'll probably be doing some actual digging today on stream, which I'm excited about. We had some crew members go home this morning, so there's more space in the quarry for me to work. As the quarry continues to shrink, we're trying to get this thing totally closed out in the next couple days. Next few days, I should say. And yeah, I'm glad you're here. If it's your first time, welcome to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, and I am incredibly privileged to be able to share some paleontological fieldwork with you like I do. This is what, my fourth summer in a row doing this? Via the magic of Twitch and satellite internet right there. Powered by Earth's sun. Yeah. We're in the late Cretaceous almond formation out here in Wyoming. Digging up dinosaurs and all of the other organisms that we can find that they share their environment with. That's kind of what this site is all about. Everything from fossil plants to fossil invertebrates to fossil small vertebrates like turtles, hence the name Turtle Hill, freshwater fishes like gar and bowfin, and then squamates like lizards and snakes, even some mammals. We've got a mammal tooth from this site too that we're very excited about. So anywho, this is a really cool site and that it's very technical. There's a whole bunch of fossils. We get things every single day that are important, but they're very small. They require a gentle touch and a lot of precision to be able to excavate successfully. Fisher's down there right now logging some of these specimens as we speak. And yeah, we'll be talking to him in a minute. And I'll be doing some digging. Oh, Arle, good to see you, Dad. I'm glad you're back. Hello, hello. We got Claire Burr, Ms. Art Rules, Murph. How are you doing, Murph? Welcome, welcome. Always wonderful to see you. Casey Snowart, what's shaking? Hello, hello. Yeah, and Lordy. Well, all my favorite people are here. How you doing, Lordy? Howdy, howdy. I hope you're having a good day. Today we're, yeah, it's just me and Fisher here at the site. We're going to try and close this out over the next few days. And there's some clouds inbound. Cross your fingers that these miss us, and if they don't miss us, that they at least don't drop any rain. We were, according to the forecast, supposed to look out for thunderstorms in the early afternoon today. And so this could be a quick end of the stream if we do end up getting a thunderstorm rolling in. Cross your fingers that doesn't happen. But we'll see. Live broadcast. Anything's possible. And things are shaking for sure. Good luck with the rain. Thank you, Casey Snowart. Yeah. By the way, how close are you to applying for partner? Have you already done that? Casey Snowart here is she's been doing some really cool stuff on stream. Not only does she do a lot of really neat art and encourage people to start their own art pursuits, she's an excellent teacher. But yeah, she's pushing for partner right now with the goal that hopefully, maybe, she'll be able to get that before Vaquita Day, which is in September, is it not? Beginning of September? The Vaquita is something that we've talked about before on this channel, but the world's rarest and most endangered cetacean, member of the whale group. They're these tiny, adorable little porpoises, and there's probably about 10 of them left in the entire world. Casey Snowart's trying to get partner before World Vaquita Day so that she can do a special stream there and help raise awareness, maybe even be on the front page. All good stuff. So, yeah, go follow Casey Snowart if you're not yet doing that. Mustache Mike, how are you doing? Crimson Carnotaurus, hello, hello. And let's see. Casey says, 3 more stream days to go before I have the 16 stream days over 75 required. So far, every stream has hit the mark. Thank you so much for your help with that. You bet, Casey. No. For the Vaquita. Yeah, excellent. And October 4th is Vaquita Day. Okay, nice, nice. Working with porpoise.org again to promote awareness. Excellent. Beautiful. Super, super cool. I want to know how I can help with that. when you get partner, because I think it will happen, Casey. I'm hoping it does. Yeah. Maybe we'll do a special Vikita stream on Paleontologizing too, and then raid in, or do something cool like that. I don't know. I want to know how I can contribute. But again, for right now, we're out here in the field, and yeah, we're gonna keep digging. So let's do that. And an event or a raid train or something. Awesome, Casey. That'd be really neat. Yeah. What's the best place to put the camera for today? Probably there again. But yeah, you can see how much work Fisher and Ava and Josh and everybody else who's been working at the site have done. Mostly just them. But this bench right here extended up to about here and then all the way across to there. So over 26 days so far, this is how much we've been able to excavate. And there's just a little bit left. Just basically this much extending from here to there. We've got to close this out before the end of the season in just a few days. Working slowly and carefully to recover any tiny little bits of fossil critter that are in here, each one of them potentially scientifically important. Here's a little piece of bone right there. You can see poking on the surface. There's a little piece of shiny amber right next to it. I collected some of that a few days ago. It's good stuff. Yeah. One of our more scientifically important sites for sure. And yeah. And Mr. Audio Propagation says, I like the way you chip it away. Yeah, you'll see that in progress today. Yeah. Good stuff. And very funny Carnotaurus. Oh boy. Yeah. Here comes Fisher over here.
Hello.
What's your shirt today, Fisher?
I've got a Fossil Butte National Monument.
Nice crocodiliform.
Yeah, this is Borealisuchus.
Yeah,
the
awesome.
northern croc.
Which actually survives the KPG extinction event. We've got them in the Hell Creek, and I think maybe in the Judith too. And then also in whatever formation is there.
The Green River. So
Green River Formation. Okay,
just
nice.
across the way.
Yeah, that's pretty close to where we are here in Wyoming. So yeah. So we're gonna continue digging today and try and get some of this done. Yeah.
Approaching. Don't think it'll take too much more effort, but you never know. It can always be an insane thing that shows up that requires a lot of effort. But
true. Yeah, like that croc skull from earlier in the season. And I just got a text from Ethan. He says plaster was $260. Ethan actually texted me right before stream started today to ask if we could do a little community fundraiser to help afford the plaster that we need for the Ankylosaur site. They're going to be doing a lot of jacketing there over the last few days of the season. We have until basically Sunday to get everything out. So he had to go buy some more bags of plaster, and $260. So I might humbly request that, let me do that for him right now, actually. I'm going to Venmo him that $260, and then let's see if we can make that up. Maybe Ko-Fi donations and that kind of thing. Let's see. There we go. And pay. There we are. You sent a payment to Ethan. Excellent. Good. So yeah, over the next few days, if anybody's feeling generous and they want to help us recoup the cost of that, I'd really appreciate it, because I just gave Ethan $260 out of my pocket. It's just the easiest way to do things. That way he'll have the money so that he can get the rental truck for bringing all of our supplies and our fossils out of here on Monday. Let's see, today is Wednesday. And I'm saying this as much for myself as for anyone else. I'm trying to remember what day it is. All right, let's check on this real quick. Stream manager. There we go. Okay, cool. Nice. And excellent. Oh, thank you, Trek Nerd. Really appreciate the support there. Excellent. And Jingle Jangle, thank you. Brilliant. I appreciate your generosity. We weren't expecting to use this much plaster this year, but the purple puzzle site, our gigantic hadrosaur, ended up needing a ton of plaster. And so, yeah, we were about to run out today. Yeah, holy cow. And Miko the Raccoon, thank you for the 13 months of support. Really appreciate that. Yeah. All right. And we don't have the helicopter net yet. We still have to figure that out, Mr. Audio. It's one of those things that we need to like sit down and have a meeting about that. We've been talking a lot about a helicopter, but there is a slight chance we might be able to get a different kind of vehicle up there. Like maybe there's a chance that we could use like a backhoe or something. But I honestly think that things are going to be too steep over it.
On Ultra Kill Cloud.
Yeah. That reminds me of what was that? Jimi Hendrix song. Excuse me while I kiss this guy. Get it? It's Kiss the Sky.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anywho. Hang on, are we back? Yeah, we're good. Cool. And your Sketchy Tracks, good to see you too. Claire Burr, Lenina. Oh no, Casey Snowart said, if that wasn't a father-son reaction to a dad joke, I don't know what it is. Oh boy.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So again, if anybody's got any questions at all about...
More than happy to answer anything to my best ability.
Questions about paleontology, about natural history, about the philosophy of science, about babbles. Those are some of Fisher's favorites. What's this little guy?
That is a gar scale.
Oh, I should have turned it over. Yeah.
That's the characteristic gammon. So,
yeah. Let me show the camera.
Sure.
It's the most thrilling thing one could possibly find.
Yeah. I mean,
Gar
hey,
scale.
when I first started, I was taking pictures of every single one. So.
Yeah, it's not as though they have thousands of these per animal. There's a gar scale right there. There you go.
So
Nice.
bag for that for.
Oh yeah, nice, because
Nick's-
it's not been glued.
For Nick's project.
So Nick Oliver will be, as I'm told, grounding these up into a
Chinese
potion.
medicine.
And then he'll be drinking it to see visions of this ecosystem as it was being deposited. Now he's doing isotopic analysis, I think stable isotope work.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be trying to determine like what exactly is it that he's looking for?
I don't know.
I think it's something to do with like depositional setting. It's probably like mean annual temperature or something like that. I wouldn't imagine it's to do with salinity, but it could
No, I can't imagine that's the case either.
Okay.
I think the rocks say enough about that.
Yeah.
It's not really necessary. But,
Freshwater
I
environment.
mean, it could help corroborate what the geology is showing us.
Yeah. Oh, and hello, Ken. Yeah. Oh, Camaro King says, how soft are the bristles? Let's see. Let's see if they can rasp my skin off. If they're coarse enough. No, they're pretty soft. Yeah, this is I think it's hog's hair. Denver Fowler gave me this brush way back in. He's very proud of it. He didn't like the kind of cheapo camel hair brushes like Fisher has. Denver Fowler, who's from the north of England. Yeah, he's very proud of this. He's like, hold on to this, Danny. This is a proper brush made from proper British hogs and their bristles. And I've had it ever since. I'm really proud, actually, that I've not lost a lot of equipment in the field. I tend to be pretty protective of my gear. And, yeah. Ooh, who's this guy?
That thing?
Yeah, that just, like,
Oh, okay.
came loose in the wind, practically.
It looks just like a
I didn't even brush it.
fragment of a thing.
A fragment of a thing.
Is
Nice.
is what I would classify this as. So yeah, I don't think that's gonna get wrapped, unfortunately.
Okay, that'll go in the matrix bag?
Yeah. It's fine. I mean, like, it's just the nature of this site, right? There's such an abundance that it's not worth the materials and the effort to individually wrap everything we pull out. It just kind of overclogs the system.
Yep. Well, we got some questions for you, Fisher.
Oh, excellent.
Sorry, I'm just finding these now. Casey Snowart says, I have a question for Fisher, maybe. It's not a mammal,
That's fine.
but I'm really curious about Cotylarhynchus.
Okay.
Would love to know more about them and their weird anatomy.
Okay, so Cotylarhynchus is a casiosaur.
Which is a sauropsid, right?
Caseate. No,
They're synapsids.
I believe they are one of the most basal clades of synapsids.
Whoa.
So, if you don't know what Cotylarhynchus looks like, it's
stupid looking.
imagine you had a turtle with a long tail and no shell and a really, really, really tiny little head.
His head is ridiculously small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the casiosaurs or casiids were some of the first terrestrial herbivores, vertebrate herbivores. And so they evolved in the Pennsylvanian, so the latter half of the Carboniferous period, and they survived into the Permian. And so they're occupying some of the first terrestrial herbivorous niches. So almost every all vertebrates that come onto land start out as carnivorous or as omnivorous, and these are some of the first guys who really adapted for herbivory. And that's why they have such a gigantic body and such a tiny little head. You don't need giant teeth or a giant head to hunt down shrubs, but you do need a lot of guts because plants are much more difficult to digest than meat. That's why herbivorous mammals, for example, have much more complex stomachs than do carnivorous mammals. You can just compare the stomachs of like a pig and any other artiodactyl to see that pigs are omnivorous and they have a much more simple stomach, whereas their close relatives, the ruminants, all have very complex stomachs. It's one of the things that sets them apart from other mammals.
So like cows, everybody's heard that they have 4 stomachs or whatever. Chambered stomach.
Yeah.
But they need that really complex gut system in order to digest quality plants.
Oh, there's one section that's the true stomach, but they're shaped like refrigerators because they need a lot of space to house all of that complex, tissue for digesting plants. Cotylarhynchus looks so silly is because it's the terrestrial vertebrate to specialize in that kind of body plan. And so it's got the tiny little head and the giant body for housing that, that plant processing facility.
That's neat. I didn't realize it was a true pioneer in that sense. Like one of the. Is it considered the first big terrestrial herbivore?
It's probably that taxon in particular probably isn't. I think it's Permian in age, which means Adaphosaurus was around in the Pennsylvanian, but other casiids were definitely around.
Adaphosaurus was there in the Pennsylvanian?
Yep, Adaphosaurus crops up in the in the latest Pennsylvanian.
Shoot.
Just around the time of the rainforest collapse.
Huh. I didn't realize that.
And
I
so
thought they were just Permian.
Another example of a tiny-headed, large-bodied early synapsid that's specializing in herbivory.
Huh. Neat. Well, I hope that answers your question there, Casey. Wombat Hole asks a very appropriate question for their name. Know any diprotodon facts?
Diprotodon. S big wombat. I have a friend who's working on their master's right now on Pleistocene Australian megafauna.
Nice.
So I may need to consult her at some point for some fun diprotodon facts. But yeah, it's the largest marsupial that we have on record right now.
It's about the size of a rhinoceros.
A rhinoceros, exactly. Yeah. Their skull looks really weird. Let's see. What are things about wombats that I could talk about? They are part of the clade Diprotodonta, which have procumbent incisors, which are kind of fun.
So they stick out forward?
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. This is a mammal that I'm not super familiar with. I mean, of course, I know what a wombat is, but I don't.
What I want to know: do we have any coprolites from them?
Oh yeah.
Are they leaving giant poop boxes around on the
big cubes, big Minecraft cubes? I don't think so.
Because modern wombats famously have
square
cube-shaped poop.
Yeah.
I wonder if Diprotodon is the same. This little shelly guy here.
Oh yeah.
Show the camera.
Check that out.
Yeah, a little gastropod.
Typical Turtle Hill matrix looks like.
Little white guy there is a gastropod. Put that in our matrix bag. So I spent much of the morning, nearly all of the morning here, marching these bags down to the vehicle. And it was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, and took way longer than I thought it was going to. But now we have fewer things to carry when we close the site out, which...
Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, no, it's nice to be able to get some strenuous exercise like that.
Yep.
And the solitude is nice too, sometimes.
Yeah, it can be tough working with like a 20-man field crew.
Yeah, for sure.
I, for example, am quite introverted just by my nature, and so I really appreciate the alone time I get out here.
Just you and Dave.
Yep.
David Attenborough on the phone.
One of the social challenges of field work is that you don't really get a lot of time to be by yourself, at least with this field crew. You know, I'm sure it's different elsewhere. One of the things I like a lot about Turtle Hill is that I can never have more than 3 people here at a time. So I get a little bit of a break from the hustle and bustle of camp.
Yeah, it has been having so many. Our biggest.
We've never had less than 20 this year, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I want to say, just briefly, we had maybe 20 or 22 or something. Memory serves. This is kind of moving as you put your elbow on it.
Oh,
just so you know, yeah,
Thanks.
it's flexing.
I think that's okay. I don't believe any of this lower stuff is fossiliferous. So
Okay.
We should be all right, but I appreciate the warning regardless.
I just saw it start to buckle.
I'm just gonna do it again anyway. Look at that.
Yeah. Clipper says, she's reposting a message from Casey Snowart. What's up with the giant space between the skull and the sternum, you think? Is that in Diprotodon or Cotylorhynchus? It almost looks like there's room for loads of muscle or some other soft throat tissue. This is probably Cotylorhynchus.
Yeah, that I'm not familiar with.
It might just be based on the skull being so small compared to the body. These guys really do look ridiculous.
Yeah, they're
silly. I should pull up an image. Cotylorhynchus. Or Cotylorhynchus, you were saying?
As long as you can understand what people say, then that shouldn't matter. I don't know what the etymology is. That would probably actually give you the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
But I think I've heard both.
It's kind of the opposite of Erythrasuchus.
Yeah.
But yeah, just ridiculous. So here's an image that I can show you, chat. Just a bizarre animal. Like, this is a front view of the skeleton right there. So that is the skull at the end of a very short neck. It's just, what a crazy critter. But it makes sense, given that this is like one of the first big terrestrial herbivores. I guess there was selective advantage to having a really big body with really big guts.
Mm-hmm.
The
head didn't scale up.
Yeah, like you could grow the rest of the body without growing the head and just be fine. They worked really well for them.
Didn't really need any sort of complex brain or
Yeah.
anything. So.
Yeah. S tier amusing, says Golganek. Yeah, it really is.
Fun.
So these guys are long before the dinosaurs. This is what, early Permian? Or no, it was Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania and into early Permian.
Nice.
I'm not sure when the Casiids go extinct. I would imagine it's the end of the first Permian epoch, which I think is called the Ciceralian, if I remember correctly. Sometime around then.
I'm glad you know about this. Fisher is interested in, like, you know, the rise of the mammals, and
It's always been my primary interest in paleontology, and seems to constantly elude me in the work that I get to do, but that's okay. You know, it's not the only interesting thing about the field. So.
how would they eat? With their mouths, as Art rolls. Yeah, so they'd probably just kind of like, with their really short neck and small head, they'd probably just like put their head down on the ground and just eat plants.
Horsetails and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Permian plants.
Jody Fish says the genus name Cotylarhynchus comes from the Greek kotyle, cup, hollow, so cup or hollow, and rhynchos, beak or snout. The genus was named so because of the nasal opening, which is surrounded by a depressed cup-shaped bony surface. Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Camaro King says, since you were talking about plants, how big is a brontosaurus stomach, roughly? Big sauropods like Brontosaurus, aka Apatosaurus. That's a long story there. I won't get into it at the moment. They would have had huge guts. That's one of the secrets behind the success of the big sauropod dinosaurs, we think, is just that they had a lot of space for all that digestive infrastructure like Fisher was talking about. So they would have had very big stomachs, very long intestines. These are guys who didn't chew their food, and so all of the food processing was done in the guts. So by having a really long, super long intestine, they were able to extract tons of nutrients from these plants. They were probably very efficient at doing that. And they also had really small heads like Cotylarhynchus, but at the end of a very long neck. They're very long necks. If heads is plural, necks should be too. Yeah. So big stomach. I don't have like an exact figure for you. We don't have a fine stomach for any of these animals, but so we just have to kind of infer how large their stomachs would be. I'll say.
No.
Although that is disputed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sauropod workers who were like, yep, sauropods did not use gastroliths. They didn't have a. So, and it seems like that might be the direction that the consensus is heading in, is that they didn't actually use gastroliths. Jim likes to use the idea of mixing stones rather than gastroliths. Like, they would swallow stones just to help mix things up, so stuff doesn't go stagnant in their guts. But I don't know.
That still is like a sort of gastrolith, isn't it?
I would be inclined to think so. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And Casey Snowart wants to know, what is a unique non-dinosaur paleo critter you guys wish more people knew about? I feel like there are so many I'm learning about constantly that I had no idea existed but are so cool. Yeah, like Cotylarhynchus, right?
That's a great example.
Yeah.
I mean, my choice would be many of the non-mammalian synapsids. I think they're really fun. They look a lot like the creatures in Star Wars, but they were all real, and they were running around and, you know, occupying the same niches the mammals that we have today or the dinosaurs had.
So what would be a good example?
Some of the like really weird like dinocephalians.
Oh yeah.
Maybe like Juncaria or
Moschops
or Astematosuchus.
Yeah.
These like weird kind of ungainly creatures with weird cranial ornamentation and gnarly teeth. Strangely proportioned bodies, just kind of meandering about the Permian landscape.
Did you get to see the Astematosuchus and Rob Gaston's workshop
Yeah, I
last
did.
night? Wasn't that cool?
Yeah, it's super cool. I got to see it on display in the cranial ornamentation exhibit too.
Oh, very cool.
When it was up.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a weird guy. Picture like, it's hard to describe.
Like a hippo thing.
Yeah.
Like a
with like a warthog head with like antler things on it
Yeah.
almost, but it's got like big doofy teeth as well.
yeah. Its name means crowned crocodile.
And it's not related to crocodiles.
Nope.
It's a synapsid,
Yep.
so on the mammal side of
It's
the...
more related to a hippo, and we
the
have
amniotic
skin
cavity.
impressions from them as well. Which it seemed like they had like hippo-like skin.
Huh. I wonder if they were semi-aquatic.
Yeah, there's been some ideas floated that they were.
Huh.
So, do you have one, Danny? Non-dinosaur paleo
Dinosaur that I wish
taxon.
more people knew about. I don't know, my go-to like for really cool non-dinosaur things from the Mesozoic is like, I think elasmosaurs are super trippy and neat, but a lot of people know about them. They're already pretty popular. Marine crocodiles are cool. I'm kind of fascinated by them. Like this idea that you give crocodiliforms half a chance and they develop all these bizarre adaptations. Ooh, you got a rib in there?
Looks like this has been
Oh, okay, you've already
exposed
glued
for a
that. Yeah,
while
yeah.
now.
Okay,
but
nice.
I've been trying to debate on whether or not I'm going to wrap it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of in the way now, so just move it up there. Continue to ponder the fate of that particular specimen.
But yeah, we get from the Jurassic through the Cretaceous, you get these marine crocodiliforms. So basically, picture like a crocodile, but take away its scales. It's just got kind of smooth skin, like a dolphin maybe. Give it a fishy fluke at the end of its tail, and then turn its arms and legs into little paddly flippers. I guess you'd call them paddles. And you've got some of these marine crocs. They're really interesting. And it's now thought, as I understand it, that they didn't ever come up onto land, even to lay their eggs. So instead they had, they gave birth to live young in the water, just like a dolphin does.
It's quite odd for an archosaur.
I know, right? Yeah. So it kind of shows that, like, here's what archosaurs are capable of doing, potentially. Like, I think that's really fascinating. Yeah. But live birth is one of those things that's most marine reptiles develop. The Thalattosuchians, like Metriorhynchus, I think. The plesiosaurs, the ichthyosaurs, the mosasaurs are all thought to have probably given birth to live young in the water column. And almost everybody except sea turtles. Sea turtles are like unusual in that they still lay eggs to this day. They never developed live birth. And
There's some sea snakes also lay eggs.
oh, really? Oh, okay. So do marine iguanas.
Yeah.
Yeah. But whether or not they're actually marine reptiles is
I mean,
a matter of
debate.
personal opinion, I know.
I mean, if a seal is a marine mammal, then I would consider a sea snake or a marine iguana a marine reptile.
Fair. Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's arguing that pinnipeds aren't marine mammals.
What about a polar bear, though?
That's a tougher one.
What do you think, Chad?
It is the maritime bear.
This is the mammalogical equivalent of is a hot dog a sandwich. Is a polar bear a marine mammal? Discuss.
Let's see. I mean, most of their life is spent on sea ice.
Mm-hmm. But does that make them marine, though?
Are penguins marine?
I mean, they're not living on the continental crust.
No.
So they're living at sea, but on sea ice. Is that terrestrial or is that marine?
But they also go onto offshore islands.
True.
Plenty. And they're built for terrestrial locomotion. It's hard to say.
Does a marine mammal have to have adaptations like paddles or flippers?
If hippos were swimming around in the ocean, would they be marine mammals?
Ooh.
I think that's... If the answer is yes, then a polar bear is a marine mammal. If the answer is no, then it's not.
Is a manatee a marine mammal even if it's in freshwater most of the time?
I would say yes, because they do go into saltwater.
Yeah.
And they're like fully aquatic.
Yeah.
I guess they're
Yeah.
not
They do
marine.
eat marine life. That's true, Mr. Audio. Yeah.
But so do plenty of things. I mean, like crab-eater macaque isn't a marine mammal.
Right.
It's a tough question. I mean, it's just kind of arbitrary, but it's fun. It's a fun thing to ponder about, I suppose.
And hybrid stone. No, both polar bears and manatees are mammals. Yeah,
That is
absolutely.
true.
Yeah.
They're very different mammals. but
Yep. Yeah.
Mammals they are.
All mammals require air. Hybrid stone. Yeah. Including whales and otters and pinnipeds like seals and sea lions and walruses. Are walruses their own group outside
They
of
are,
like
yes.
otarids and phocids?
Yep. I think the family name is Odobenidae.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They're closer to the eared seals than they are to the phocids.
Interesting. So they're closer
which
to
you
sea. That makes sense because they can
But they
rotate
do
their
lack,
hind
they
flippers.
do lack the external ears seen in.
So that's a term that I've only started hearing recently is eared seal in reference to otarids like sea lions.
Yeah.
Are there any exceptions there where like otarids don't have external ears?
I don't believe so.
Huh.
I can't think of a single example of a sea lion or fur seal that does not have little floppy external ears.
Huh. Pinnae, as we would call them, yeah. Yeah. And where did the bears give birth? Oh, where do polar bears give birth?
They
In
give
ice caves.
ice caves, usually on islands surrounded by sea ice.
Yeah. So that's a trivia question that I sometimes break out. I'll give away the answer here, but like, what is the world's largest burrowing mammal? And it's a polar bear. Because they dig dens or burrows for themselves, and they're the world's largest bear. You could say the largest North American mammal, right?
Yeah, well, no,
No?
because I believe muskoxen and bison.
They get heavier?
Yeah.
But they're not as big, they're not as long, right?
No, they're pretty long.
Really?
Yeah.
Bison? I've seen some huge bison, and they felt smaller than polar bears that I've seen.
I mean, it's individual variation. I think they're heavier for sure.
Yeah. I know. As a dinosaur person, I'm always inclined to think of size as length rather than weight or mass. But
and it's just the difference in dinosaur versus mammal anatomy and like
Yeah.
their bone structure.
yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's a fish skull plate, it looks like. Ooh, quite a big one too.
And why don't manatees have ears? Ask Ms. Art Rules.
It's because of their aquatic lifestyle. So having external ears in water causes drag. It's why you don't see nipples on whales either.
Right.
They obviously have them because they're mammals. They need to suckle their young, but they keep them hidden away in little pouches on their abdomen. And
Secret nipples.
the sirenians, like manatees and dugongs, have them in their armpits.
Right, yeah. So when you see like a manatee nursing, the baby's like in here, in the armpit.
But having those extra little flaps causes drag in the water, and so there is an evolutionary pressure to get rid of them. And also, there's not really use for ears underwater because the sound travels differently through water than it does through air.
Right. So whales have ears, but they're internal. They don't have like an external opening to them.
Yep.
And that's where you get the involucrum.
Yep. One of the characteristic skeletal elements of whales is actually their ears, despite them not having one externally.
So that's one of the early clues for like when critters like Ambulocetus and Pachycetus were discovered. These are animals that look kind of like a big, weird. It's like a wolf crossed with a otter or a crocodile or something.
thing.
Yeah, they're bizarre looking, but we knew that they were ancestral whales because they have that really unique whale ear that only whales have. It is unique. And since they have it, it's like, oh shoot, these guys are whales, even though they don't look like it. Or would it be fair to call them whales, or call them stem whales, or proto whales?
I mean, they're
or...
within Cetacea, so I'd call them whales.
But Indohyus is just outside of Cetacea, right?
I don't know. I'd have to check the literature.
Yeah.
It's a stem cetacean, or a cetaceomorph, or
Morpha, for sure. That always struck me as like a whimsical clade name.
Sure.
Cross between whales and hippos.
Yep. Little portmanteau.
Yeah. Oh, and Charlie's Dragon says you can date whale ears by doing histo on their earwax. Yeah, you were just reading about this, right, Fisher?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In the book Spying on Whales by Nick Pienson, there's a section on trying to age bowhead whales, which are the longest living mammals we have a lot around today, using their earwax, using their baleen, using parts of their eyes, using archaeological evidence from spear points embedded in their skin.
Which is nuts. Like, talk a little bit about that, because I think people would be interested.
Okay, so there were bowhead whales that were found that had stone spear points embedded in them, and so by looking at the historical accounts of when the Inuit people stopped using stone spears and started using other materials, we can tell when the whale was speared, and that can help age the whale. So, if you know the native people of the Arctic stopped using these spear points in, say, I think the 1870s or whatever, this probably isn't the actual date, but just, for the sake of the discussion, and you find the whale carcass in 2015, then you know that the whale is at least, 145 years old.
That's crazy. That's nuts. Yeah.
And then you have to assume that, at minimum, that it was speared at in the first year of its life, which probably wasn't. It was probably old enough to survive the attack,
right?
And carry on for the rest of its days. So you add another 5 or 10 years to that.
That's bonkers.
And I believe the oldest bowhead whale on record is about 212 years old.
Which would make it the longest lived mammal, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. 200-year-old whale. Like, one individual whale. We don't mean a whale that lived 200 years ago. We mean the whale lived to be 200 years old. Nuts. Yeah. Yeah. The Hybrid Stone says, were there ever any giant cephalopods? Yeah, that's probably it. That could swallow a ship? No. Unless it's a very small ship. I mean, the mouths on cephalopods, even like a giant squid or a colossal squid, the beak is still only going to be about this big. So, like, it could probably still, I don't know, choke on a grapefruit. Well, it would cut the grapefruit up with its beak, but yeah. So yeah, we're talking about, giant squid can be 60 feet long.
The biggest invertebrates around today.
Yeah. Although, well, colossal squid are heavier, aren't they?
They are heavier, but they're not.
They're not as long, yeah.
So again, it's a weight versus length thing.
Yeah.
But they're both enormous.
Yeah.
Squid, so.
I wonder if that's like approaching an upper limit for how big an invertebrate can be.
I wonder.
I wonder if there is a ceiling for that.
But yes, the Kraken myth, which I'm guessing you're referring to, is probably based on whales rather than on cephalopods.
Oh, really?
I don't know if we're going to talk about why that may be.
Oh, I think I know what you mean. Yeah, that might be against, well, not against TOS, but just, yeah, I'm talking about reproductive gear. We'll discuss that another time. I don't know. We'll change the subject. I forgot about that. I bet you that's in Richard Ellis's Sea Monsters book that I started reading. I haven't gotten to that yet. But yeah. And are you able to peek at your Co-5 for us? Let me try to do that real quick, Claire. Let's see if that's possible. Let's see if it'll let me log in. I think it should be under the Paleontologizing account. Okay. Check your inbox. Click verify. Oh boy. Okay. There we go. Nope, that's not what I want. Nope, it's not with Twitch. That's shoot. Gosh darn it. Oh, okay. Somehow that worked. Let's see. Let's see all. Holy cow, okay. 60, 80, 100, 10, 40, 145, 165, $175 so far out of 260. That's really excellent. Thank you everybody who's contributed to that.
Always impressed by the generosity of this community.
I know, right? Kind of astonishing. Yeah, we're trying to raise $260 on Ko-Fi. I just sent that to Ethan via Venmo so he could buy more plaster that we need for the Ankylosaur site before we wrap up for the season. They must be doing a ton of jacketing today for him to need that much plaster. But that's one of the essential things that we need to get before we can finish our season out here. So yeah, that was $260 that I just sent him, and we're trying to recoup that because that was out of my pocket. So
already halfway there.
Yeah,
very impressive.
175 out of 260, not too shabby. Thank you. Holy cow. Yeah. Claire Burst says $100 more if anyone can drop a few bucks. There you go. Yeah. And there is a chance we could get more rain tonight. We'll see.
The sky looks a little threatening right now, but not enough, so
yeah.
I don't want to pack up yet.
Hopefully that one goes that way.
Well, it seems like the wind is going, southeast?
I don't even get my compass.
So north is in that direction, roughly.
I gotta go through all the permissions on this dumb app. No, reject all. Confirm choices. Okay. Yeah, if those continue to blow north, we might get hit by that thing, which is looking pretty gray. But got some nice mammoth action there. Look at those.
Yeah, you can feel the wind blowing in that direction. So.
But it almost looks like the clouds up there are moving this way. Let's hope they don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. We've been lucky so far.
Yeah, let's just be ready to pack up the site pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. Just put the blankets and the tarp on.
Yeah.
And then throw the vials in one of the totes.
And holy cow, 1, 2, 3, 4 people just supported us on Ko-Fi. Holy moly. Let's make that 5, actually. Community time. Thank you. Phenomenal. Really appreciate that. Let's refresh the page and see what we're up to. 10, 20. So yeah, we should be at 200 now out of 260. Phenomenal. Thank you. For science, for jacketing. More love, more dinos, more plaster. Thank you. Thank you, Gompstar. Lenina for getting plastered or something like that. There you go. Yeah. Phenomenal. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate this. And I know Ethan really appreciates it. Shoot. When we have like a sudden expense like that. We're at the end of the summer, and so the budget gets a little tight. So it's really nice to have that support. Mo money, mo plasters. It's like for real. Yes. Yeah. Excellent. What's with that big flat thing? Ooh.
Check it out.
Is that turtle or fish?
I think it's fish.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
How it, like,
Yeah.
branches out.
It's got like a weird, almost convexity to it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Doesn't quite look like turtle
No, it
texture.
looks almost too thin to be turtle as well.
Yeah. Nice. Probably like a skull plate from a fish right there.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Here, let me bring the camera over so people
I'd
can
like
see.
to see that.
Yeah. This is the sort of thing we're after here. This could be from our beloved Melvin.
Big Melvin.
Big Melvin. Melvius. Right there, look at that. Nice. See that cool texture on it? That is a probably skull plate from a fish. Big freshwater fish called Melvius, who's been really kind of the star of the summer here at this quarry. Lots of Melvius material. He's a cool critter. Let's see here. That should do it, yeah. Maybe like this. Nice. Cool. And Mizart Rules wants to know, how did manatees evolve nictitating membranes that close in a circular motion? Do they have that?
I have never heard of them having one.
Huh. I know mammals basally do have nictitating membranes, but they tend to be like understated or lost through time. So like cats have a remnant of that. People do too, but it's vestigial. I think it might even be like the pink part on the like inside of our eyes by our nose. That might be. Well, no, doesn't nictitating membrane come from the outside in?
I'd imagine like the eyelids do a lot of the same job
Yeah.
that a nictitating membrane would.
I forget. I think like, you know, just get variation in different people, certain people. But I want to say it's some structure in the eye that,
This isn't
yeah,
not something I'm familiar with.
it's a vestige of that.
If they do have them, I've never heard of it before.
Yeah. And Charlie's Dragon says the nictitating membrane in cats comes from the inside corner of the eye to the outside. Interesting. So it probably is that on that we have like the pink part kind of in the part of our eye near our bridge of our nose. Yeah, by the tear duct. There you go, Casey Snort. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The lacrimal caruncle is what it's called. Thank you, Casey. Neat. Claire Burr confirms. Yeah. Huh. And Camaro King says, what is one place you've always wanted to go for a dig that you've never been? Oh boy. I have to pick just one? Shoot. Antarctica. I'll say that.
It's hard not to pick Antarctica.
It really is just like the ultimate. Unless you really hate the cold. Like I know people who would not want to work there, but I think if you were to ask 100 paleontologists what's one place you would, like if you could pick anywhere on the planet to go do field work, where would you pick? I'd say 75 of them might say Antarctica. I don't know, maybe that's an overstatement.
Sure. I mean, it's a very
Yeah.
sought after destination.
Yeah. Like if you make it to Antarctica, that means you've really made it, you know? That's the ultimate. A continent for science. And people are going to ask, are there dinosaurs from Antarctica? And the answer is yes, absolutely. It's still the least dinosaurific of all the continents. Fewest dinosaurs have been named from Antarctica, but there's more than you would expect. I can think of like 5 off the top of my head. Yeah.
Is that including the birds?
I wasn't even including the birds, like Vegavis?
Yep.
Oh.
Or Conflicto?
Conflicto?
Yeah, Conflicto, which is also another And
Forgot about that one. Yeah, yeah.
From I think the very earliest Paleocene.
That's why I'm not as familiar with it, because it's not Mesozoic.
My future advisor
Nice.
Has worked on those birds quite extensively.
Makes it sound dangerous or quarrelsome. Conflicto. Conflicto, the bringer of turmoil. Crusher of its enemies. Yeah. And Erg67, thank you for the 9 months of support. Really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. And Hawkraptor says, just sell some items to Fisher for some krona. They'll soon afford it.
Oh, this bit is a favorite, isn't it?
How much for that fish skull plate right there?
Melvius cranial material. The accent's not too strong right now. I have to do the hemming and hawing to get it going. Fish skull plate. 91 krona.
Wow, that's expensive. There we go. It's an important skull plate.
Yeah. No, that's quite the nice specimen. I was honestly kind of expecting us to not get much else out of here. But that's
nice. That'll slow us down a little bit, but it's worth it.
Yep. I'm going to get that out in the next 45 minutes or so.
Nice. Okay, we've got time. Today is what, Wednesday?
It is 25th.
Yeah, Wednesday, June 25th. So we've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday to work at this site, and potentially you could work here too on Sunday.
No, I can work until the very end. I'm more than happy to work by myself. I've done it in the past, and I'll do it again in the future, I'm sure. But as it stands, I believe we're going to be finishing up here in the next few days.
Yeah.
Probably not today, but possibly tomorrow we could be done, at least with the quarrying part. Getting everything cleaned up for the winter is another story entirely.
Yeah, that could take a day potentially.
To recruit a couple people for that. Just do a lot of shoveling.
That and also carrying the totes and all the specimens down to the road. Whoa! 13 raiders have just joined us from Rogan27. Joe Rogan himself. Thank you for raiding in. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Yeah. Sorry, I've made the same stupid joke almost every time you've raided in. I apologize. Welcome to Paleontologizing. I'm here with Fisher McDermott. We're digging at Turtle Hill, finding all kinds of cool little critters that might not seem like the most exciting to anybody who comes here expecting giant dinosaurs. But these are all scientifically important little animals that tell us about what the... So we could have the world's best specimen of Melvius here that we've been collecting over the past 3 years.
Ethan seems quite convinced that is the case.
Nice. And that's exciting. That's a big freshwater fish from the same family as today's bowfin fish.
We're not even close to finished with the site. Many more years worth of work in this hill. So it's possible that the whole thing could be here. Just waiting for us to find it.
That'd be really neat. I want to make a skeletal mount of Melvius. Put it in the Cincinnati Museum. Then I want to have one in my office too. 3D print it. But anyway, how was your stream, Rogan27? You were doing some science and technology? Awesome. I hope it was really good. Yeah. F. Tippin says, where would Fisher like to go to study and dig for mammals? Oh shoot, you're going to do that, like, what, next week?
Yeah, so at the start of the next month, I'm going to be doing some work in the Eocene with Benjamin Berger at Utah State. But I think maybe my dream mammal dig would be with my friend Don DeBlue in Utah looking for some camels in the Miocene.
That's your dream dig?
Maybe.
Shoot.
I mean...
It's like, that's so... You're going to do that this year, though, right?
Probably not this year. Maybe not even ever if it doesn't get off the ground. But there are a few things I can think of that I would prefer to do. Maybe going to like Kenya and looking at the Miocene there would be fun.
Yeah.
Or China, where you get a lot of fun ungulates and proboscideans and stuff.
Fungulates.
But I love dawn, I love camels, and I think the two together would be a great combination.
Neat.
So. And it's not the most, bombastic locality, Utah, but,
Yeah, I don't know. Utah's got a lot of charismatic stuff, but this is going to be important, I'm sure.
Does.
Miocene camels are not that common, are they?
No, they're pretty common.
They are?
It's just that Utah doesn't have a ton of Miocene strata.
So it's important geographically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the stuff that it does have is often like igneous.
We've got some camel material from Fremont, California. If we end up finding any associated parts of camel, I'll let you know.
It sounds fun. I'd like to learn more about their anatomy.
Me too, actually. Camels are neat. I feel like every time I do a zoo stream, I always end up waxing lyrical about how cool camels are and about how they originated in North America. And always there are people who are like, what? Camels came from North America originally?
And they've been here for almost the entirety of their existence.
Yep.
So.
They only just disappeared last Thursday, geologically speaking. It was just at the end of the Pleistocene, right? So, yeah.
There were at least 2 camel species running around North America at the end of the last ice age.
That's Camelops
And then yesterday's camel is the common name for the other one.
Alticamelus?
I think so. I'm not certain.
Let me look that
Or
up.
maybe yesterday's camel, I think, is Camelops. I'm not sure. But
Alticamelus. During the Miocene. Nope.
okay. It might just be Camelops. It's the one that always comes to mind first.
Yesterday's camel. Camelops, yeah. Camelops hesternus. There might have been more species of camelops.
Yeah, it may be that it's multiple species of Camelops, not multiple genera
Yeah.
of camelops.
Named by Joseph Leidy in 1854. Cool. Huh. Later in 1874, Leidy named the species Camelops hesternus based on teeth found in a gravel deposit in Arroyo Las Positas in Livermore Valley, Alameda County, in the southern Bay Area of California. I didn't know that's where Camelops hesternus came from. That's really cool. Shoot, it's a Bay Area original. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Livermore. That's the same Livermore as Lawrence Livermore Labs for any physics devotees in the chat. Yeah. Welcome back, Geos Rudent. Hello, hello. Good to have you here. Yeah. Yeah, camels are cool. For sure, I've told you the story about the camel that bit that guy's head off.
Yeah,
right?
we talked about that around the campfire.
Yeah.
Like a few weeks ago.
Somebody could look up that article, but there was
mess with them.
a camel in India that was being mistreated, and in its anger, it bit a dude's head off. It was also kind of crazed from the heat. It had been left outside during a heat wave, all tied up, couldn't get into the shade, and was not happy. Yeah. But they've got pretty impressive teeth, especially their canines.
Yep.
Oh man.
I believe the dromedary is the 4th tallest extant mammal.
4th tallest. So giraffe is first. Although there are several species of giraffe, right?
I think they're all subspecies.
Oh.
Maybe not. I guess 5th if we're counting both.
Giraffa camelopardus.
Yeah, I think it's all the same species, and
Okay.
then like the Maasai and reticulated are all subspecies.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
guess-
Don't tell me the other ones. So
Okay.
giraffe is number 1.
It might
tallest.
be. It's probably actually 5th.
And it's going to be terrestrial mammals, right?
Yeah.
Because whales. How tall are whales?
That's another length thing, isn't it?
Tyler Beatbox says, did the camel let out an aggressive roar afterwards? I'm not sure. You can find the article and read about it. Did somebody find that article and post it in the chat? Camel that bit a dude's head off in India. Oh, and Jim is here in the chat. Hey, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Oh, Jim's disappointed, though. He says, hey, I wanted the Yankee site. Sorry, Jim, you're stuck with us today here at Turtle Hill. But we're finding good stuff. Maybe we'll find you some more elasmobranchs. Some more cartilaginous fishes, excluding ratfish and chimeras. Yeah, there you go, Claire. Thanks for finding that from the Independent. Camel bites owner's head off after being tied up all day during a heat wave. That's a very descriptive title and URL. I like it. Camaro King wants to know, are elephants descendants of dinosaurs? No, not at all. Not. No, not even close. So they're on the other side of the amniote family tree, tetrapod family tree. Amniote family tree. They're mammals. They're not even reptiles. So elephants are much more closely related to us than they are to any reptile, including... Yeah, shoot, our last common ancestor with elephants would have been what, like 80 million years ago, something like that?
Something around that time. I think 100 to 80, depending on what methodology you use, whether it's the molecular clock or...
Yeah.
Or just looking at the fossils, but... when it comes to the four groups of placental mammals, the elephants are quite distant from primates and rodents and ungulates and carnivorans.
Who are the Laurasiatheres?
So the
Boreoeutherians?
Boreoeutherians include all those groups that I just mentioned, and then which includes both the Euarchontoglires and the Laurasiatheres.
Right.
So, elephants are part of Afrotheria, which is the southern radiation of placental mammals, and which also includes the Xenarthrans, which are from South America.
Like sloths and anteaters and...
The best way to tell them apart is...
Armadillos?
Well, maybe we shouldn't talk about this on stream either.
Well, you can. It's fine.
The lack of external testes. So they have testes, but they don't have a scrotum.
They're internal, yeah.
Yep. Southern continents.
Huh.
So things like primates, things like rodents, things like ungulates, things like carnivorans.
I wonder if that has something to do with climate. Probably not, because everything was warm back then. Yeah. In like the Eocene.
Yep.
Yeah. Although a lot of these, so like the split between Boreoeutheria and Atlantogenata, and the other clades, which are... Oh, don't tell me. Well, there's monotremes, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about placental mammals.
Yeah, so those are the two big groups of placental mammals. And within them, there are more groups.
So that split probably took place in like the Paleocene or earlier, right? Maybe not.
Between what?
Between Boreoeutherians and Atlantogenatans.
That's definitely in the Cretaceous.
In the Cretaceous, okay, yeah, because Afrotheres themselves are thought to have originated in the Cretaceous, right?
It's probably the Paleocene.
Paleocene, okay.
I mean, it's hard to determine for sure, but I know
using molecular clocks at that point.
We get like some of our first proboscideans in the late Paleocene, early Eocene in Africa.
Huh.
Which that's the group that includes the elephants.
That's like Merotherium?
Merotherium is Eocene, so it's like stuff like Erytherium and Phosphotherium.
Oh, okay.
Some of the earliest proboscideans.
Yeah.
But again, depending on which methodology you use determines when we first see those, whether it's Paleocene or Cretaceous. But the split between the Afrotheres and the northern mammals is definitely sometime in the late Cretaceous or mid-Cretaceous.
Yeah, so anyway, the point that I was trying to make is that elephants and humans, they separated about 80 million years ago, give or take, something like that.
Roughly speaking.
Yeah, during the Cretaceous period. Whereas, if we're looking at where elephants and dinosaurs diverge, that would be way back in like the Carboniferous.
It's like 320 million years ago.
Yeah, so like 4 times ago further, if that makes, I don't know. Much further back, that's the point. Elephants are much further away from dinosaurs than they are to people. Elephants and humans are both mammals, so. And the grand tree of life, you know, all things considered, elephants and people are actually pretty close.
It's true.
Elephants and dinosaurs are much further away, much more distantly related to one another. Not very close at all. And thank you for the Ko-Fi donation there. Erg67, really appreciate that. Excellent. Yeah. But Calculus Centrifugal wants to know, is a woolly mammoth closely related to modern-day elephants?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
They're actually closer to the Asian elephant, which is Elephas maximus, than Elephas maximus is to the African elephant.
Which is, I think, pretty cool. Yeah. It's really neat that... Oh, that's at least for, for the woolly mammoth, for Mammuthus primigenus.
And that's all of the mammoths, I believe.
Okay.
They're all closer to the Asian elephant.
They're much further away.
Yes, mastodons are a kind of...
Right, okay.
They diverge in like Oligocene or Miocene on their own branch.
Do they make it into South America?
Yes.
Nice.
And they do. Suberonius, or Cuvier, named for George Cuvier.
Right, yeah.
Is a mastodon from South America. And I'm pretty sure there's another one too, whose name is eluding me right now, but that might be the last surviving proboscidean in the Americas.
Shoot. Even longer than the Channel Island mammoths or whatever?
It's one of the South American mastodons. I'm trying to remember what it's called.
Fairy Willow says, have you talked much about the dire wolves that they made? I'm glad that you put little half quotation marks around it. I have talked a lot about that, yeah. There's a lot of hype around that. They did do some really cool things that are like legitimately interesting and groundbreaking, but that's not really what got reported on. It was all, all this hype about Game of Thrones and, we made a dire wolf. It's not actually a dire wolf. It's a genetically modified timber wolf. No, it's okay, Fairy Willow. Yeah, when that came out, we talked about it like that day. And again, appreciate you, Erg67. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah. And there you go, Petrodactylus, yeah. My brother actually brought that up with me recently, told him about the misinformation on that as well. It's... I don't know. Some cool stuff that they figured out, but, they're way overselling it. I don't know. I guess that's what you get with a for-profit company. When it's about money rather than about science, Yeah. Big gastropod there.
Nice.
And there you go, Gia's Rudent, yeah. Marketing scheme, kind of, yeah. What I'm really eager to see is what canid specialists have to say about Colossal's claims about the direwolf being within genus Canis again. That's like, everything kind of hinges on that, where like, if they're right about that, and it actually is most closely related to gray wolves, then they've got a point. But if it isn't, if it's a separate genus, if it is within genus Anision, like was published back in, I think, 2006, then Colossal doesn't really have a leg to stand on there. A lot of it comes down to that, as I understand it. And I haven't heard much about that recently. There must be some papers in the works, I imagine. Yeah. Man, I'm going to be done with this layer in just a little bit.
There's this little nose that you can work through.
Yeah.
Here. Or you can always flip over to this side and help me take this down if you prefer.
Probably do that later, yeah. But I'll work this down to the coal first, just in case there's anything lurking in there.
Appreciate that, but yeah.
And then we could just take the coal out with a shovel, basically, right?
Mm-hmm. Or just leave it. There's no real reason to get rid of it.
Okay.
I mean, it's just more talus that has to be moved later.
True.
Might as well keep it around.
I was really hoping for like a complete mammal jaw.
Yeah, that's been my white whale here. So far it's just the one tooth. You know, I'm not going to complain. It's still quite amazing.
Yeah, first mammal from the almond formation is nothing
and
to.
We didn't even have to go through a single matrix bag to find it.
I know, yeah. I do wonder how many mammal teeth are
I
in
always
those bags.
think, whenever I take out a big slab, it's like, how many mammal teeth am I missing by taking this out?
Right.
How many mammal teeth did I break by taking this out?
Wombat Hole says, I'm on the fence regarding if species is a useful descriptor. I mean, it definitely is useful. It's just...
The definition is not set in stone.
It's squishy, yeah. So, like, we as human beings like to put things in neat little boxes. That's kind of what we do. But nature is messier and more complex and more fascinating than that. And, yeah. Like, lots of different organisms do different things. And so it's not like that definition of species should be the same across the board for all different critters. Yeah. And Claire Burst says a krona is 0.099 US dollars. So almost a penny? No, that's almost 10 cents, right? A krona is basically a dime, I think.
Wow, I'm really
no, hang on.
underselling things now.
No, it would be a penny, huh? Yeah, almost a penny, yeah. Shoot.
Wow.
We've been getting much better deals on things.
It's the dollar store out
What
here.
did you say the solar system was? 37 krona? Yeah. Football coach has got a question. How scientifically accurate do you find the Jurassic movies? Do they make up a lot of dinosaur species and their behavior/facts? There are like fake made-up ones that they come up with in Jurassic World. But that's like one of the plot points is they're making up fake dinosaurs. Hold all the dinosaurs in the Jurassic Park series are more or less real genera and species, with a few exceptions. Some of them are like kind of borderline. Like the Compsognathus in that is kind of... Anyway, it was pro-Compsognathus in the books, I think, and... anyway. But yeah, like they're real animals. It's just they're not always depicted very well. The thing that always immediately jumps out to me is the raptors, the velociraptors in Jurassic Park, which are actually Deinonychus. They should have feathers. And by the time Jurassic World came out, we knew this for a fact, 2015. And yet they chose not to have feathers on them. And, you know, it's like having an elephant in your movie without a trunk. Like, oh, we can't put a trunk on it. That would make it look weird. Like, what do you mean weird? That's what it is, you know? You don't put that on there, and it's not the animal. It's the same with dromaeosaurs and feathers. You know, Velociraptor, Deinonychus, they had feathers. We know this for a fact. So, yeah. Yeah. And Mizart Rules says the dinosaur that squirts venom is not real. Dilophosaurus is a real dinosaur, Mizart Rules, yeah. It just didn't do that in life. That's an interesting example of like when a movie gets something wrong and makes it way less cool and big and scary and interesting than the real thing. Real life Dilophosaurus was... That critter's like... You know, it's like 6 meters long. It's like 20 feet long. It's a big dinosaur. At least big for its time. And really formidable. They made it way smaller in the movie. But we have no reason to think that they spat venom or had that crazy frill or anything. Reason to think that that's the case.
I don't believe there are any venomous dinosaurs.
No, including birds.
There's one poisonous one I can think of.
Yeah. But those are poisonous if you touch them or eat them. But they're not venomous. Salam alaikum to you too, Aton 00. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. Yeah. And... Exactly, Jewish Rudin. Yeah, Dilophosaurus would have been a big, formidable animal. Wouldn't have really had much use for venom or a frill like on an Australian frill-neck lizard. They're, you know, they would have been perfectly capable predators without that. Although that wasn't really understood at the time, though. That's interesting. Like, I've read Sam Wells's monograph on Dilophosaurus, and in that he speculates that because he thinks that the jaws and teeth look kind of delicate, that maybe it was primarily a scavenger or had some other means of subduing its prey. And that's probably where Michael Crichton got the idea for them spitting venom. I don't know if I've ever actually heard anybody say that, like... Anybody make that connection? But I'm pretty sure that's where that came from.
That's interesting.
So, yeah. Maybe I'll make a video about that at some point. I was going to. I had a whole script written out and, like, started to shoot footage for it and then just kind of ran out of steam. That's back when I was still trying to make it on YouTube. And Crimson Carnothoris, yeah, at one point, that was Sinornithosaurus. I think Dave Burnham published a paper saying that he thought it was venomous, but that was based on misinterpretation of the tooth morphology. The teeth were kind of displaced from the skull, and so they looked like they had grooves in the sides. But it's probably a taphonomic thing. Yeah. And Hack the Box, hey, welcome to Paleontologizing. Thanks for raiding in. What's shaking? We're here in Wyoming right now, digging up fossils, live on stream. I'm here with Fisher McDarmid, who is, I jokingly refer to as my son. I'm not actually his dad. But, you know, we make jokes about that. So we're excavating all kinds of fossils of little microvertebrates, critters that lived at the same time as the dinosaurs here. So everything from cool fossil fishes, like these big carnivorous bowfin fish called Melvius, to gar, to turtles and lizards, and we've even got a tooth from a mammal, the first mammal ever found in this whole geological formation. So that is really important. And if you're really good, maybe we'll show it to you in a bit. We have it in a vial over here. So, yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. And I did work with the Dilophosaurus holotype. Not work on it, like studying it, but I helped conserve it in the lab. So, shoot, that was back when I was in high school. I was helping to help stabilize the frill on it. Or the crest, excuse me. Frill. The crest. There's actually only one crest, and we assume that it's paired. But that thing is so incredibly thin. It's like potato chip thin. You can see light through it. It's so thin. The thing is mostly glue. And I helped put some of that glue on back when I was in high school. Yeah, it's a neat specimen. And there you go, Alexander Morrison. I've shown that video many times on my channel. The Brian Eng one is, that's one of the best sources of popular information on Dilophosaurus anywhere on the internet. I'd argue probably the best one. Good stuff. Yeah. And Murph says, is it unusual that no signs of Champsosaurs have showed up? It is unusual. I don't know where they are. In the Judith River Formation, which is older than this, we've got Champsosaurs everywhere. In the Hell Creek, we've got Champsosaurs everywhere. It could be that they're not this far south in Wyoming, but I feel like we get Champsosaurs in Utah. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know why we don't have any Champsosaur material. There's always a chance that it'll start turning up and then we'll just see it everywhere, but honestly, I'd be surprised at that at this point. We've been working collectively as a group. We've been working geological formation for 5 years now. I don't think we have a single scrap of Champsosaur. Do you know of any, Fisher?
Not a one.
Yeah, which is weird because normally their vertebrae are very distinctive. Here we go. And normally we find them all over the place. Would have looked something like there we go, something like this. They're superficially very crocodile-like, but they're not related to crocodiles at all. I'm not sure we're totally certain where they belong on the reptile family tree. I think the last I heard is they're probably like non-archosaur diapsids. They might even be related to lepidosaurs like lizards and tuatara. But yeah, they've got very distinctive vertebrae. Yeah, they look like this. They've got that kind of, you know, parentheses shape in the middle. And, yeah, or like this. Really, really distinctive. So we'd know if we had them. And they're just nowhere to be found. So that's kind of a mystery about the almond formation. Why no Champsosaurs? Bizarre. Like, I find that genuinely puzzling. But maybe if there were one site that would help, like that, you know, might hold the secret to that, it's going to be Turtle Hill. So, we'll see.
Yeah, we're keeping our eyes out at all times.
Yeah, yeah. I still don't think we're going to find them. I think they're probably just not here.
I'm doubtful as well.
But, because again, if they were here, we would have found them by now, right? You would think.
Maybe. I mean, we only found our first theropod tooth this year.
Uh-huh.
And certainly there were theropods here of all sorts of size and shape. So
That's true, but yeah, I don't know. If I were out in the Hell Creek or the Judith and I didn't find a Champsosaur vertebra every day, that would be strange. Like, they're just everywhere. Maybe they're just really rare in this environment, but why? Why would they be? I don't know. Maybe this environment just isn't right for them for some reason. Maybe there's a particular kind of fish that they specialized in eating or something like that who isn't here. I don't know. At this point, I would almost be disappointed to find a Champsosaur vert. To be like, oh shoot, they are here. What are we doing wrong that we're not finding them? Or, I don't know. I like the idea that they're not here because of something special in this environment. But we'll see. Yeah. Oh, and Jim says there's none in Utah. Really? There's no Champsosaurs in Utah?
Well, it might just be a latitudinal gradient then.
It could be. Yeah, it could be that we're just too far south for them. Too far south almost implies, like, too warm? They do disappear in the Eocene, right?
I think it's Miocene.
Miocene?
Is the last. Curistodira is the clade that they belong
Yeah, yeah.
to.
Mm-hmm.
Or something.
Really? I wanted to say it was, like, Oligocene that they completely disappear. Let's look it up. Cristodera. Nope, you're right. They go from the Middle Jurassic or possibly even the Triassic to the Miocene. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. And there's none in New Mexico. Huh. Pumpkin the Cat says, I think I see a Champsosaur in the rocks to the right. Very funny. Yeah. And Relo Rolo, please. Danny, are you finally doing something yourself? Yes. You don't see all the work that I do before I start streaming every day. We finally have room here in the quarry because we had some other crew members who left this morning. And so, yeah, we've got space for me to work here. It's, you know, there's limited bench space at this site.
Consistently one of the most helpful people around camp.
Oh, I appreciate that, Fisher.
Don't give him up. The only reason he's not working is because he's letting you guys be part of this. So.
Thank you for defending me, Fisher.
That being said, you can bully Danny for other things.
Yes, you can. What would you bully me for?
I don't just like your mannerisms, I guess. Hey, yeah.
Yeah, I do say yeah a lot when I'm streaming.
Hey, little guy, I want to be your neighbor.
When I'm talking to lizards and stuff.
Insects and yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
It's
friend.
Like, it's all endearing and
I don't know.
and lovely, but you know.
I see other critters as peers.
It's true. We all do, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
also love to poke fun.
Yeah.
We believe in equal opportunity bullying here.
No one is immune.
It's true. You know, you gotta be able to take it if you're gonna dish it out.
Yes. True. That's so cool counter. Gotta get myself a thesaurus so I don't just keep saying cool or yeah. Kind of like ad libs on a hip hop track, you know? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. And every time he says critters, it's just so I don't have to keep saying organisms every time. We try and keep things light and informal here on Paleontologizing to the extent that that's possible, and we've got arcane biological nomenclature. So I like the word critters. I feel like it makes things less intimidating to non-specialists. And I appreciate that, Claire. Holy cow. The feeling is mutual, Claire. Thank you for the kind words. And bring Owen Wilson in, so every other word is either yeah or wow. I used to be able to do a good Owen Wilson wow, and I have lost it. Don't ever change this, Trek Nerd. I mean, everybody's got to change a little bit every day. We're all replacing ourselves and ontogenizing. And I do say holy cow a lot in Mizart Rules, it's true. You know, we're trying to keep things PG rated.
Didn't even brush it.
I didn't even brush it.
That's an inside joke, chat. You don't have to be privy to that one. Who was asking this earlier? I apologize. The question was, how easy is it to destroy a fossil by mistake at this site?
Extremely. Almost guaranteed.
Yeah. I messed something up just the other day on stream, remember?
Guaranteed.
That rib?
Yeah. You know, I break probably at least 10 things every day.
But you're discovering, I don't know how many fossils every day. It's a big number.
You know, it's just par for the course here, and you're just gonna have to live with it because we don't have the ability to collect everything perfectly. It's just, it may be possible, but
it would take way too long.
The amount of time and resources that would go into it is not worth it, especially considering we would be hyper focused on getting all of the most common elements, and we would not be able to, you know, work a large enough area to really pull out the important stuff that's scientifically groundbreaking. You know, we get only gar scales because every gar scale would have to have so much scrutiny.
You know the phrase "don't cry over spilled milk"? Don't cry over broken ribs. That would be the mantra here at this site.
And you know, it's sad. You know, it always is a bummer to like let a fossil go to waste. But it's all in the name of getting the ones that are really scientifically important out as safely as possible.
We do really focus on those things like that croc skull and the mammal tooth,
or even this fish skull element here.
Yeah, that skull plate right there. Yeah.
I'll give you guys a closer look.
That is really neat. Thank you, Fisher.
But yeah, when we can get a gar scale out safely with it, that's always a plus. But I would easily sacrifice 4 or 5 of these gar scales, probably even more, just for this one fish element.
Ooh, people like that. Nice. It's there's changes in pace to our work based on important fossil. If we worked at the same pace the whole time, we would just never get anything done.
I don't even want to talk about how many plants we break.
Yeah.
Because it does weigh on my heart a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Here's a leaf that's been in the ground for 70 plus million years and
obliterate it.
If you want to make an omelet, you gotta smash a few fossil leaves.
This one's being used as basically a paperweight right now, and it's kind of a bummer, but
yeah. Oh, and we have some people asking about that element that you just showed them. What is it, and how do you know?
I believe this is part of a fish skull, so let's take another look at it. And how I can tell that is because of the texturing on it, all of the ornamentation. It's quite common in a lot of fish, not so common in a lot of other vertebrates. You can sometimes see it on turtles, but the specific texturing on this says fish to me, and the shape of it as well makes me think it's fish as opposed to turtle.
But it's not like we're married to that idea right now. It will get looked at in the laboratory. Mm-hmm. And there we'll have reference guides that we can look at.
Exactly.
We'll be able to email fish specialists, paleoichthyologists, if we have questions. right now, our prime directive is to get these fossils out of the ground safely and get them back to the museum, back to the laboratory.
What part of the fish skull it is, I have no idea. But that's...
The flat part.
Yeah, that's another job left for lab work where you can, like Danny said, refer to publications. And once it's fully prepped, you can look at all different sides of it, the ventral, dorsal, lateral sides.
Cepheid variable says, how many years and years of experience do you need before you can just tell that? So Fisher's been doing this for about 55 years so far, and still doesn't know much about fish. So no, this is your 4th year working this site?
3rd year.
3rd year, okay.
3rd year.
That's right. Your first year in the almond was mine too.
Yep.
2023. Right. Yeah. And I don't know. I have some experience in identifying fish pieces, just in the sense that, like, that's a fish,
Yeah, I mean, that's basically my experience too. There are some elements that really stand out. Like earlier this year, we got part of the occipital, which is the back of the brain case, and I could only tell it was the occipital because I saw the spot where the vertebral column articulates with it, and so that was the dead giveaway. Other than that, I would have been like, oh, I don't know, it's part of the Melvius skull, which is awesome, but it's just, I don't have the ability to identify most elements in the field. Something like the operculum or the jaw elements are some of the easiest ones, and even those can sometimes be kind of difficult. Because fish skulls are crazy complicated.
They're tricky, yeah.
And they can be variable within even the same individual. You can have paired elements that are asymmetric.
And Oxrom, oh boy, so it says someone trained AI, so you can just snap a picture and it will tell you work references. Not for fossils, no. There are really cool, I don't know if you'd call them AI, but there's cool programs like iNaturalist where you can snap a picture of a living organism, whether it's a plant or a fungus or an animal, and then it'll try and identify it based on that, but it still needs human input, where it'll tell you what it thinks it might look like. We don't have that for fossils. It's so much more complicated for fossil elements, because any one of these bones, like the fish skull element that you just saw, they could be broken in a million different ways. They could be tons of different colors based on the depositional setting and diagenetic properties. You might be looking at it at different angles, different lighting, all of that stuff. And yeah, for this particular critter, this sort of fish, it's called Melvius. There's only a few good specimens in the entire world, really. Where's the most complete Melvius specimen, Fisher, you think?
It's probably the articulated skull from New Mexico.
Right.
I mean, we get isolated vertebrae all over the place, but the cranial elements are quite rare, which is why this site in particular is so special. If we were only pulling out vertebrae, it would not be nearly as big of a deal.
Right. So I don't know. To come up with an analogy, it would be like, I don't know. You go to a junkyard and you pick up a piece of a car, and you're trying to know what make, model, and year it is, when it's a rusted piece of metal that 90% of it is missing. Expecting an AI to be able to figure that out just doesn't.
Or just like one tire.
A tire, yeah. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like, this is the sort of thing that, I don't know if AI will ever be able to cut it for something like this. It's just too complex.
Too many variables.
Too many variables. Yeah. This is something that really only human ingenuity and expertise can tackle. At least at present. It might always be that way. Who knows? And Oxram says, perhaps it would be better if you could 3D scan and try to work out where it is meant to fit or matches. I mean, at that point, it would be 100 times as much work to train an AI to do that than just to do it yourself, Given that there's probably 5 people on the planet who would use something like that. Yeah. There's not a lot of people working on fossil bowfin fish. I can't think of a single person who does that.
The only ones I can think of are the people who authored the papers I referenced for the poster.
Right. And some of those were modern fish workers, right?
I believe so.
This is like a monograph on Amy Calva.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have examples of all sorts of fossil
Yeah.
amiids as well. But yeah, there is definitely an imbalance in paleontology for certain organisms. Fish seem to get the short end of the stick a lot.
Yeah.
You walk into the fish session at SVP and it's usually the same 30 people.
Everyone in the audience is just waiting to go up and present. There's 6 people there. They shouldn't have the fish session at the same time as the theropod session, you know? Or else I would like to go watch some fish talks, but...
I've definitely popped into the fish session on an occasion.
Yeah.
It can be pretty fun, but it's a little disheartening to see how few people attend that one.
Yeah. Well, shoot, Jim was talking about how there's only like 3 Mesozoic fish specialists in the entire country right now, or something like that. It might even be fewer. And like one of them is retiring soon.
Wow.
There's not enough people working on fossil fishes, especially from the Mesozoic, from the age of dinosaurs. Yeah. And Oxram says, I guess paleontologists don't want it as part of the appeal is the manual aspect? What, like AI? No, we just don't want... It would be a waste of time and money and resources.
For imprecise.
It's like AI generally doesn't work for most things. Like, it's really, really difficult to imagine it working for something as complex and complicated as this, you know? Like... Yeah, I don't know. I've seen some researchers try and use like AI stuff, like large language model type things for like identifying microfossils. And it took like hundreds or thousands of hours of work, and then at the end result is an application that can like just kind of barely do as well as like a high school intern after 20 minutes of training. It's just, I don't know. I think people tend to think of AI as being magic, and there's so much hype around this, and I don't know. I have very, very little faith in it, to be honest. And it's incredibly expensive. None of these AI companies actually make any profits. Like, it's a bubble waiting to burst. Like, AI is mostly fake, in my opinion. That's my hot take on this, but like, I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see it basically go away. Again, my hot take, but incredibly expensive, incredibly energy intensive, and it just doesn't work very well in the future. It's a step backwards, if anything. My hot take, sorry, being real froggy about this. Yeah. Hey, Lucas is extremely good. Hot take. Thank you. We'll see. I could be completely wrong. You know, time will tell. Jedi Mega Man says, as a computer dev, I agree. Okay. Yeah. Death Source says, once the AI bubble bursts, it'll take the economy down with it. I mean, yeah. There's a podcast about this, actually, that if I could be annoying for a second and recommend, it's good. Yeah. Better Offline is what it's called. With Ed Zitt, tech writer, and he's been talking for years at this point, like the AI bubble bursting, and I don't know. I find his arguments convincing, but you know, could be completely wrong. I'm not an expert on this sort of thing. I'm a paleontologist, for crying out loud. Who cares what I have to say about AI or whatever?
We're skeptical but open-minded.
Yeah. But also, I don't know, as a resident of the Bay Area, I know just how much ridiculous hype and lies and just false promises go into all of these things, and like, it's pretty gross, I gotta say. Coming from a field that's like extraordinarily underfunded, like, shoot, we're trying to find $260 so that we can buy plaster so that we can finish out the field season and bring home this new species of armored dinosaur. Like, that's an incredibly cool thing, and we have to like go out hat in hand, like, you know, brother, can you spare a dime? To see all of this money in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley just get wasted on nonsense is, it's just kind of distasteful. Yeah. Anyway. But, yeah, Trek Nerd says, underfunded reality versus overfunded fakery. I would be inclined to agree. And Dr. Irrefutable says you need $260. It's less than that now. It's like maybe $50 now. Folks here have been super, super generous at the beginning of our stream, and we're doing really well on Ko-Fi there. What are we at now? Let's see. There we go. So that was what, 210? We're there.
Oh, look at that.
Thank you, everybody. Yes. Holy cow. JIK, the Parasaurolophus, Frog, Erg67, Ren the Only, Marcy Walks Dogs, Paul Wings Art. Really appreciate your support there. We made it. Ethan's going to be so happy. Holy cow. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Brilliant. I'm so proud of this community. Holy cow. You guys are phenomenal. Yeah, shoot. Crowdfunding science. Yes, indeed. Marcy Walks Dogs. And thank you, Trek Nerd. Appreciate you. Yeah. That one guy says, so when you see someone crack open a rock and an ammonite, does that mean that you just cracked the creature in half? In some cases, yes. Sometimes it'll split right down the middle. But sometimes you'll just get the ammonite shell on one side and then like an impression on the other side. Mm-hmm. It's the same with like the fossil leaves that we get here. Yeah, sometimes they split right down the middle. Sometimes it's 3/4, 100%, and then just the impression. But yeah, it depends. Autonomous wants to know who discovered this site. It was probably...
It was Logan.
It was Logan?
And
yeah.
It was discovered in 2021, but the bone bed was discovered in 2023 by Elena.
Nice. Who's an archaeologist. So we had an archaeologist discover a paleontological site. Yeah, she was cool. I wish she would come back.
Yeah, I concur.
Yeah.
Good time working with her here.
And Misty16X says, what happens with the fossils after you find them? Well, we wrap them up.
Do we want to do a wrapping demonstration?
Actually, that'd be cool if you want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, let's...
We can show you.
Yeah,
good idea, Fisher.
Might as well, you know.
Yeah.
We've got some stuff that needs to be put away anyway, so...
Nice. I'll let you gather stuff. I'm going to grab a quick drink of water.
Of course, go for it.
Drink water out here, given that we've got it's so dry out here. Hey, it'll be good to get this done now too, because there are clouds on the horizon. There's a slight chance of rain, maybe. All right, let me pick you up here. There we go. So, what do we have here?
So we are going to be wrapping the fish skull plate,
and the
gar scale together. So the first step was to get the backside glued so that it doesn't fall apart in transit. But now that it's nice and solidified, I'm going to place it here, grab a scale bar,
take a photo.
And there's what we've got.
Beautiful gar scale there. Wow, nice.
Gar scale.
Gar scale and then fish skull plate. Look at that interesting texture on that. Yeah. So doing some documenting here.
Snap a photo really quick for Ethan.
Nice.
And the next step is to pull out our little field notebook. We're going to write down all the different information.
Nice.
Field numbers, what it is, which bed it's from. So today is the 25th, and this is TH25-188. So this is the 188th bag.
Nice.
And so I'm going to call this Melvius skull plus gar scale. And I'm going to specify that it is from the lower bone bed.
Nice.
And then I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab our toilet paper. So I'm going to first...
Again, only the most expensive and precise of scientific implements here.
Make a little bed for it by folding some pieces over each other like this. And then I will take the fossil and I will put it face down on the part that is already has a number of different layers. And then we will do this.
There we go.
We'll do this for a while because this is quite the both delicate and important. So I want to make sure that it has a lot of layers on it. Let's make sure that we get it from the other side too.
Johnny Autonomous is Charmin. I don't know what the brand is for this.
We have been using Charmin here. I think this is just like great value.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter, but I prefer the perforated toilet paper for the vertebrates. I know that the paleobotanists like the non-perforated stuff. I mean, both work fine, but
This seems
yeah, which I like. A bit more of a cushion.
yeah. Tight. You'll see Fisher's not like, pulling it super tight over it. You want a little bit of like air in between. Just makes it much softer.
When we have enough toilet paper, we get our painter's tape. And we do this.
Nice. Beautiful.
We will grab a Sharpie. We will write the specimen number, the field number. Sorry, specimen number is for museums. TH25-188. And then we'll get a sandwich bag. And we will put the same information on that. So
Nice.
the field number, what it is. So this is Melvius cranial plus gar scale. I'll put which bone bed it came from. This is from the lower bone bed. And today's date, which is 6/20. Sometimes for things that I'm not familiar with, I'll draw a little image on it. But one.
Nice.
And then we will bag it, and it will go in the red lidded tote for safekeeping.
Excellent. So after this, in a couple days, we'll be taking this specimen and all of the rest of them in here. We'll be taking these back to camp, and then on Monday, we'll be leaving with these specimens. Look at all of them in here. This is only like half of what we've had so far this season from Turtle Hill,
That's right. We had Eric and Dana, or Anna and Derek. Sorry, look at the Spooners in there.
We should call them that. Eric and Dana.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Derek and Anna.
Yeah. They took down about what was it, like 100 and something specimens.
Nice.
And so this is what we have left. But
Yeah.
It's still, it's not light per se.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be taking this. I don't know if this is going to be going immediately to Cincinnati or if it's going to stay in storage for a little while. But
I know Jim wants to look at the Hybodon spine.
he does, yeah. So we'll have to fish those out. No pun intended. But yeah. So this will be ending. This will go to the Cincinnati Museum of Natural History in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then there in the laboratory we'll get to open up each of these, and then start working on them, cleaning the specimens, removing the rock from them, adding more chemical consolidants, more glues and stuff to keep them nice and stable, and then they will end up in some drawers there at the museum, neatly organized and accounted for, and hopefully digitally cataloged too. And then, they will be studied by our team and by other people who get invited into the project to help, figure out what this ancient ecosystem was like, study all the different critters, all of that. So, again, the Cincinnati Museum of Natural History is a public institution. It is a federal repository. So, it's one of those special museums that is tasked with preserving our natural heritage here in the United States. Fossils from public lands that belong to we the people have to go to a federal repository. So that's a museum that has demonstrated that they have the right facilities and the right funding and the right people and the right safety measures in place to be able to preserve these fossils for centuries into the future. We would not be collecting these things if this were just like for fun or for personal gain or an individual collection or something like that. We're doing this for science. So all of these fossils are going to be there in that museum, hopefully long after we're dead. We're doing this for future generations and for the progress of our science. In the same way that you can go to the Oxford Natural History Museum in England and see the original Megalosaurus jaw that was described by William Buckland in 1824. That fossil's been safe in that collections for a really, really long time. These fossils will be safe in Cincinnati for centuries into the future. That's why we're doing this, Yeah. And that one guy says, you mentioned an archaeologist found a site you're working on. Does that mean paleontology always takes precedence over archaeology? Oh, I wish. No, it's usually the opposite. Do you work together? So we happen to have an off-duty archaeologist who joined our crew just for fun. This is in 2023. Shout out to Elena, who was really cool. I don't know. She had some experience with field work. She has experience in digging. We're like, yeah, come out and join us. It'll be cool. But she was, for the intents and purposes of our work out here, she wasn't an archaeologist anymore. She was just another member of the crew doing paleontology. Yeah. And good to see you, Cosmological Kev. Hello, welcome back. Thank you for your support, by the way. I saw that resubscription message. Thank you. Yeah. Good stuff. So Fisher's wrapping another specimen right now. Yeah. So that's how it's done. This can be a little time consuming, especially if you've got a lot of specimens to wrap, but it's very, very important. Aside. Taking samples from them, trying to make sense of what's going on in this ancient ecosystem. Going from kind of an ancient swamp represented by this coal right here, up into kind of a silty or like stagnant mud, maybe at the bottom of like a pond or a lake. Then you've got these changes in the rock that represent different environments, changes in the environment as time goes on. All of this stuff is really important. If we're trying to piece together every bit of information that we can about this ancient ecosystem, all of this stuff is worth recording, and that's why we do it. Again, that's one of the key parts of paleontological fieldwork is gathering your contextual data. Vitally important. Rila says, do you know Prehistoric Museum on Twitch? Yeah, that's the museum in Price, Utah, where Josh Lively is the curator. We shout them out all the time. We've raided into them a bunch of times. Yeah. And Fairy Willow says, why would archaeology take precedence? Fisher and I were actually just kind of talking about this before stream started. There are a lot more archaeologists in the world than there are paleontologists. And for anybody who's not aware, let me explain the difference. Paleontologists, like ourselves, we study fossils, so the preserved remains of ancient living things, generally non-human. Archaeologists study human civilizations, human cultures, human artifacts, usually. There might be some bones here and there, but mostly they're looking at like man-made objects and the way that people have had an impact on their environment, that kind of thing. So pottery shards, arrowheads, pyramids and mummies and, you know, old coins and stuff. Even old all the purview of archaeologists, whereas fossil animals, things like dinosaurs, fossil fishes, these are the domain of the paleontologist. And yeah, generally speaking, archaeology tends to be much better funded than paleontology. There are a lot more archaeologists in the world. If there's like a construction project that's going to go on in an area, it's more likely to be delayed because human artifacts are found than if fossils are found. That's just kind of how it typically, for whatever reason. People are interested in people stuff, even though I think the non-people stuff is more interesting. That's my personal, but yeah. Does that make sense? And Dr. Javasaurus says, because you can do archaeology in comfortable environments, and it's a bit easier to find archaeological subjects under an existing city. That's true. Yeah. 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 And Otan Uran says, will the streams of the excavation be preserved along with the fossils for future humans to see how they were found and how the work was conducted? I mean, these are all archived on YouTube afterward. Shout out to Claire Burr, who uploads all the VODs to YouTube. So this is the third year that we've been working in the Almond Formation, and all of these streams are still available for you to watch. Yeah. And there you go, HD and HP. Says, are there fossils of humans? Yeah. Not nearly as many. Humans are very new on this planet. In the grand scheme of things, here, show you. We've only been around for about 200,000 years, talking about anatomically modern humans, at least. We're, oh, I put it down there, didn't I? Here, hang on just a sec, let me grab that. We are newcomers on, you know, on the scale of Earth history. Human beings are, we've not been around very long. Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. We as human beings, our modern species has only been around for about 200,000 years. So, here, a graphical representation of this. This is a geological time spiral. You got to come up with creative ways to like try and fit everything in the frame. So here they have it spiral out. Earth is formed about 4.5673 billion years ago, or 4,500 million years ago, if you want to put it that way. Anyway, progress in time. Paleozoic era, Mesozoic era, that's the age of dinosaurs. The Cenozoic era is there in yellow. That is the age of mammals, as it's often referred to. And then we, as human beings, are just at the very, very end of that. So, like, you know, just the last yellow pixel there, basically. That's it. Think about it like a football field. If the Earth formed at the 0 yard line, or at 1 in one goal over there at one end of the football, if it's football like soccer, you have to go to the very, very end, and it would be like the last eighth of a millimeter or something like that would be, you know, the evolution of humans. Something like that, yeah. It's like the last micron, basically, is all of human history at the end of that football field. So yeah, that's all to say that there are fossils of early humans. That's how we know about our evolution from earlier primates. Those fossils do exist. And there are human ancestors that go back, what, about 6 million years? Is that right, Fisher?
Let's see.
Like how when we diverged from like where the chimps' ancestors
like
are?
6 or 7.
6 or 7, yeah.
Late Miocene, early Pliocene.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, there's lots of fossils of like proto-humans and stuff. A few fossils of archaic humans. Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not very much because we've not been around very long. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Yeah. And we already have an era named after us, though. It's not an era. It would be an epoch or maybe a geological stage. It probably is epoch, isn't it? But the Anthropocene, or Anthropocene, however you want to say it. Tomato, potato. But that's more of an informal term. There is an official, like, Anthropocene working group. Like, they're trying to figure out, should we actually make this an official part of the geological timescale? And the answer they came up with was no. Because it's part of the answer is it's just, part of the reason, rather, is that it's just not long enough yet. It was like 80 years or something. And that's nothing. That's like less than nothing compared to the history of the Earth. And so it just wasn't worth it to do that.
It also means that the Holocene is also incredibly short.
Yeah, yeah. The Holocene right now, the geological epoch that we're in right now, if you were to say it in 1945 or whatever,
that's like what, 12,000 years or something.
which is nothing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've talked about this on my stream before, like back home, in an office stream before. But yeah. So Anthropocene, we still use that term, but it's not like an official part of the geological timescale. It's more of a way to just emphasize in an informal way how much of an impact human beings have had on our planet in the past, however you want to define it. Yeah, the official one was going to be 80 years or whatever. I think it was since 1945 with the first atomic tests. Yeah. And the Raquel Welch movie lied to us as digital deck. Yeah, 1 million years BC. There were no people in our modern form around 1 million years ago. There were like proto-humans, our ancestors were around. Yeah, shoot, 1 million years ago, who would that be? Like, that's after Australopithecus. That would be like
Homo habilis.
Homo habilis, probably, yeah. Yeah.
Early Pleistocene.
Yeah. So, I don't... your mileage may vary, but Raquel Welch as a Homo habilis, I don't think has the same appeal. Yeah. And... that one guy says, curious about your thoughts as a scientist who works in paleontology. Have you seen the meme where there's a sauropod and a giraffe saying, I lost my height? An ankylosaurus and a cow saying, I've lost my armor? And at the end, a T-Rex and a chicken, and all it says is a chicken bacaw? Is it so really simple as that? Not sure I understand. So giraffes and sauropods are not related to each other. Cows and ankylosaurs are not related to each other either. But chickens and tyrannosaurs are related to each other. Chickens are a kind of theropod dinosaur, just like T-Rex is. Yeah, but the other ones, one is a mammal and one is a dinosaur for cows and ankylosaurs. So I don't think I'm not sure I understand.
The resemblance is supposed to be like ecological.
Huh. So a Tyrannosaurus and a chicken are supposed to be ecologically analogous? I think it falls apart.
The issue is that they're using giraffes and cows as ecological analogs, and then they're using the chicken and tyrannosaur, which are taxonomically.
Yeah, they're actually related. Yeah. I don't know.
Literally, a lion or a hyena or a wolf is a better analog
Sure.
for a tyrannosaur in the Holocene.
Given that they're like top predators in their ecosystem. Yeah. I don't know. But it's not mocking convergent evolution, Dr. Javasaurus, because a chicken and a Tyrannosaurus, that's not convergent evolution. Unless I'm completely misunderstanding this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. Anyhow, let me put the camera down and we'll continue working here. How much water have we used at the site?
I only ever used it for the one jacket.
Nice, okay.
I've used it to like wet my shirts.
Yeah.
Days.
It'll be nice because we won't have to carry a bunch. Well, we wouldn't have to carry a bunch of water back anyway. We could just empty it out. But I'm thinking in terms of endgame, wrapping up the site.
Mm-hmm. It's looking more and more like this is probably gonna get finished tomorrow.
Okay, wow. Shoot.
I mean, if it's true that this lower section is almost entirely barren of bone, then it's just this, and that's it.
Let's see. Look at our viewfinder there. Come on, update. Move that up just a little bit. That'll work. Yeah, nice. Risky Romeo says it's like watching The Big Bang Theory? You mean like early cosmology? I'm not sure I know what you mean. Smell rain yet? Not yet, Heels. Yeah. Oh, overanalyzing a joke? What does that have to do with cosmology? I'm not sure I understand.
I think they're referring to the television show.
Oh, that trash. Ugh. Yeah. Sir Yogi one says, just came from some brain rot, time for some sanity. Welcome to Paleontologizing. It's good to have you here. I don't know how much sanity we'll be able to provide, but, you know, if you want to talk science, we're here. I don't know, it does kind of seem like the world has gone insane in a lot of ways, and it's really nice being out in the field, honestly, and not having to think about that too much. And then I turn on the satellite internet so I can stream, and then there's like a few news headlines that pop up on my phone, and it's like, oh boy, the world is on fire right now. It's nice to escape from that, but it's also a little bit crazy making just to know that we're out of touch with the outside world while crazy stuff is happening. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Fisher? Is it like, do you enjoy just being detached from it all?
Yeah, I really do. It gives me more peace of mind. Honestly, if the apocalypse happened, the field is one of the places I would want to be. Just like witness the totality of it all.
Uh-huh.
You know, maybe shed a tear. Just let it happen.
Fair. There is a movie idea that we came up with in the Hell Creek in like 2015, I think. Maybe it was 2011. But it was like there's a crew of paleontologists and they're out working in the Hell Creek, and then they're supposed to like check in with their museum, and then for some reason they can't, like the cell networks are down, and they're like, what's going on? I guess we'll keep working. And then they see like bombers flying overhead and like, you know, streaks from intercontinental ballistic missiles, and they're like, we don't know what's going on, but you know, let's keep digging. And then it like flashes back to the Cretaceous, and like the events in the 21st century are paralleling the events with the KPG impact and all of that, and it was kind of a lofty premise, but a lot of fun. And they're working on a site that's like cops or a Tyrannosaurus that like died the day, and there's like spherules all around it and stuff. But Dr. Javasaurus says, sell that to whoever is writing the Jurassic World novels. Sounds way better. I don't think there's novels. I think it's... I'm not sure those people can read or write. Yeah. And the paleontologists inherit the Earth. Oh, if only, Trek Nerd. Yeah. Geekstore wants to know, is there a meal that you are craving or missing? And we'll get it as soon as you can. Taco Bell? I've actually had Taco Bell like 3 times since we started this. Sometimes I have to go into town after a day in the field. So I'll grab myself some Taco Bell. But what do I really miss? Indian food.
That's a good choice.
Yeah. Oh man, some like tofu tikka masala. Oh man, with some garlic naan. I would love to have that. Shoot. I'm gonna be in Chicago for like a, 15-hour layover or whatever. I might see if that's possible to get myself some tikka masala. Yeah. What about you, Fisher?
I don't think I have anything in particular.
Yeah. Fisher's not particularly food motivated.
No.
If you were like a working dog, it wouldn't be treats, it would be like a squeaky toy or
Yeah.
something. Or
I think there might be something wrong with like my taste receptors or something.
Yeah?
Where I find that the foods that I really like are either very strong or very plain.
Huh.
I like to say I can't taste essences.
Right, yeah. Yeah, like the other day we had a bunch of hamburger buns that were in one of these plastic bins back in camp. And I'm like, shoot, they taste like bananas. What's going on here? Everybody else is like, yeah, I taste bananas too. And it turns out that somebody had stored a bunch of bananas in the same bin and like it heated up in the sun, and that banana essence got into all the hamburger buns. And Fisher, you didn't...
No, I can't detect it. It's why I just slather everything in hot sauce.
Yeah, like when Fisher makes a veggie burger, it's just like big squirt of hot sauce on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the few things that I feel like I can taste. And I mean, this isn't backed by any sort of science, it's all anecdotal, but just, living my life and my relationship with food has either always been like really like savory. Like I love salt and vinegar chips. When too strong.
Yeah, I find them kind of like they're just punching me in the face,
Or I like plain food, like plain pancakes with nothing on them, plain bagels.
Plain bagels?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And for a bagel, I like to put cream cheese, crushed red pepper, maybe a little bit of cayenne, cucumbers, green peppers if we've got them, green bell peppers. Yeah. We are vegetarian, Heels, yeah. 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 And that one guy, no, it actually did taste like banana because there were bananas in the same bin, and that banana outgassing. You know how bananas like outgas as they ripen? It got into the bread through the plastic, which is kind of funny. Yeah. But yeah. So I don't know, there's not a particular food you're looking forward to?
Not really. Everything I cook at home is very basic. We probably could prepare all of it here.
Yeah.
Without much effort.
I actually learned how to cook in the field, so I can kind of relate to that. Like a lot of the stuff that I would make for myself back home is similar.
Yeah. I mean, vegetables would be nice to have again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've really been
Some
missing fresh
sort of
vegetables out here.
More frequency. Some nice onions and peppers would be cool. Alas.
You want to save this gastropod shell?
Probably not.
Probably not. Just put it in the matrix bag? Yeah. Phil A. says, is it common for paleontologists to be vegetarian? Probably more so than the general public at large, on average.
Like a love for the natural world. I feel like that would correlate, right? But it also... meat is easy to prepare in the field.
Yeah.
And so it it can be kind of debilitating to be a vegetarian. I would imagine being vegan is even harder, but we get by quite well here.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's because we're not very picky.
We eat a lot of veggie burgers in
Yeah.
the field.
Mhm.
It's easy, and we enjoy it.
None of us take issue with eating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, yeah. I bet you conservation biologists,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably... Vegetarians are probably way overrepresented in that field.
Sure.
Paleontology, I don't know. I think if there's like an archetype for a field paleontologist, it's probably someone who, I don't know, they're okay with very plain living. They're not fussy. They like spending time outdoors. I don't know if that correlates with vegetarianism. It probably doesn't. And I don't know, we do a lot of work out in like cattle country,
Mm-hmm.
like, where beef is cheap and good quality. So, I don't know. I've been on field crews before where I'm the only vegetarian out of like 20 people. And then we've had times when there's like, 10 vegetarians out of 30 people. So, I'm not sure. Yeah. Part of me wants to do like demographic surveys of SVP. Just to figure out stuff like that. Like, I think it would be fascinating, but I don't know if actually be up for that,
I mean, you could probably just ask for like how many people select vegetarianism for the banquet.
Yeah, for at the conference. Yeah.
And then it would just be completely anonymous.
Yeah. Yeah. I should do that. I should talk to some of the folks in leadership about that, because I think that would be interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for answering. You bet. Thanks for the question, Phil. Yeah. And Heel says, I think a lot of academians in general tend to be vegetarians. I think it might be due to the education aspect and the concepts of land use for your diet. That was part of the reason for me, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. Also, I was a picky eater growing up, and I was always like mildly embarrassed or ashamed of that, just like not liking certain foods when other people just eat them readily. And then in college, my girlfriend at the time, she was vegetarian and had been for like 12 years or something. I realized like, oh shoot, that's not only doable, but it's not that difficult. Like, and my whole world opened up, because it turned out that all of the foods that I was really picky about were meat. It's like suddenly I can eat anything that's not meat. And I ceased to become a picky eater and just became a vegetarian. It turns out I just didn't like meat. It kind of grossed me out, and I'd never really put two and two together. So, yeah. Yeah. But, yeah. Yeah. Wombat Hole says, you're all dirt poor, and the price of meat is prohibitive protein. It is often cheaper to be a vegetarian, except, I don't know, those veggie burgers, Ethan says that they're like one of the most expensive items at the store.
I mean, I'm just so used to buying them at this point that it doesn't really faze me.
Yeah.
I feel like I've bought the majority of the veggie burgers we've eaten.
Shoot, you have, haven't you?
Yeah.
Thank you, Fisher.
We have a lot left.
Uh-huh.
We're just not keeping track of
Yeah.
who's buying them.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Well, we can have a banquet, because it's
Yeah.
just you and me now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be camping out for the next...
Oh, so you can
few
take them with
weeks.
you?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. We don't have to eat them all.
Mm-hmm. I'd be happy to take some with me.
Nice. I'm happy to reimburse you for some of that, too. That's since you're paying out of pocket. Just let me know how much I owe you.
I mean, I haven't been keeping track. As far as I'm concerned, it's all for in support of the work we do. So
Well, I
happy
appreciate
to chip in my time, my effort, and my savings.
Well, feel free to use as much juice from the solar battery as you want as recompense. Charge up every device you've got. Yeah. Ooh, anything more over there?
Not yet. I'm just kind of cutting through the mudstone, which
Yeah.
is just plants. Although I guess yesterday I got a fish skull bit out of the bottom of it, so it's possible. But again, I'm not confident in anything else popping out. I think we very well may be done with wrapping.
Yeah.
Given how much little surface area there is left.
This yellow sandy stuff, I'm just blowing through this.
Yeah,
I shouldn't expect much in there, right?
No.
Okay.
Nothing along this bedding plane seems to be productive.
Yeah. Okay. Geeks Tour says, I like the communal aspect you folks seem to have at camp. While there must be some disagreements and frayed nerves, seems like folks get along generally. Yeah. We've had very, very little conflict in like the 3 years that I've been here, I feel.
Shared mission.
Yeah. We're all on the same team here, you know?
Yeah.
And I think part of it too is that like many of the folks, our one like big common denominator here isn't even fossil science, because we've got a lot of people who that's not in their background at all. But everybody is like, everybody met through Ethan basically, so we're all like friends of Ethan, and I feel like he tends to choose pretty good friends. That's what I think anyway. So yeah. Yeah. There have been folks on our cruise in the past that, like, maybe I had personal disagreements with, philosophical differences with, but, like, you know, we're all cordial, and at the end of the day, we're all trying to accomplish the same goal. And that counts for a lot.
It brings everyone down to be, uncooperative.
Yeah. And there isn't a lot of, like, competition, like...
No.
Yeah.
We're all in this together.
Exactly.
And the fact that we can spread out among different sites means that if there are, personal, disagreements or whatever, it's pretty easy to separate yourself and let those cool off naturally.
Roland Ratus says, have any flying dinosaur bones been found on the site or near to? Pterodactyls, etc.? Oh, so pterodactyls, pterosaurs, are not actually dinosaurs. They're related to dinosaurs, but they're outside of the dinosaur family tree. Yeah, and we've not found any pterosaur bones at all in the whole 5 years that this project has existed. They're pretty darn rare. And it's probably a result not of them being rare in the environment. They were probably around, I'm guessing, but they have very, very thin, delicate bones. So, I don't know. We talk about on this channel the concept of a dirter, like a paper towel tube. You know how thin those are, the little cardboard tubes? Pterosaur bones are like that, generally. Extraordinarily thin-walled, and so it's very rare to preserve them. They would just get broken apart after death. Very rarely would they fossilize properly. And so, even if those animals are really common in this environment, there's a big bias against their preservation, if that makes sense. So if we were to find a pterosaur here in the Almond Formation, that would be huge. That would be a big, big deal. And, maybe one day we will. Inshallah, we will find a pterosaur in the Almond Formation. But that alone would be worth, like, a scientific publication. Like, that would be worth a paper being published. So, cross your fingers. Maybe it'll happen. Have you found anything that could be pterosaur teeth in here?
I don't think so. I don't really know what they look like either. So.
They apparently have, like, a hollow base to them. That's what I've been told. But I also don't know how many pterosaurs would have even had teeth in the late Cretaceous.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah. I think most of the toothy ones are gone by this point.
Do we know why pterosaurs drop off in diversity so heavily?
I'm not necessarily convinced that they do.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just a preservation thing again. Is that the ones that we get at the very end are really big? So
yeah, it could be preservation bias and like lack of teeth.
Yeah.
So, like, we're not finding pterosaur teeth in microfossil assemblages. But I don't know. The classic answer, which I think might be a little bit too simple, is that they're being outcompeted by birds. Could be true. Like, birds are diversifying at this time and becoming more and more common. Could be they're pushing the pterosaurs out, but we don't... I don't know. I feel like I've asked this to pterosaur paleontologists, like, you know, where do all the pterosaurs go at the end of the Cretaceous? And they go, what are you talking about? So, like, there's probably pterosaur diversity that I'm just not aware of.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And HD and HB says, I saw on Walking with Dinosaurs that bird bones are more robust than pterosaur bones, compensating for size. That's probably true. Yeah. Yeah. And Roland Ratas, you are correct in that ground-penetrating radar tech still cannot detect dinosaur bones, as the bones are often too similar to the ground material. Exactly. Yeah. And it's too expensive. We don't have that kind of money out here. We just had to try to raise $200 for plaster. Yeah. And question from True Love. How long does it generally take to uncover an entire dinosaur, average size? How long is the preservation process? Oh, shoot. That depends. I don't know. That's...
I mean, there's so many variables.
Yeah.
Like location, geology.
Yeah.
The number of people you have working on it, the tools you have available to you.
It would be like asking, how long would it take to eat a car? Like, how big a car? How hungry are you? Are you eating? A crew that I was on dug up a big 2010 and 2011, and that took, I think, about 4 months, with a crew of like 20 people. Yeah, the first season they discovered the site and found the skull and dug that up, and then the next year we were out there for, I think, about 2.5 months, if memory serves. Hang on, no, it was like beginning of July through mid-August, so it was like, yeah, shoot, maybe it was 3 months total. But anyway, that's with a big crew working every day at the same site, and with equipment like jackhammers that we had for doing overburden. So it can take quite a while to dig up a Triceratops-sized dinosaur. I would say that was pretty quick, though. We had a crew that really knew what we were doing. I've got another gar scale here. The gar scale bag. Yeah. Actually, let me show that to the camera real quick first. Thanks. It's all sticking out obligingly for us to be able to see. But there is a scale from a gar. This is probably genus Lepisosteus. So this is a fish from the same family as our modern alligator gar. In fact, it would look a lot like that, probably. Alligator gar, spotted gar, long-nosed gar. That's one of the bony scales on these guys. Yeah, and you can see on the other side we've got that characteristic dark, kind of shiny, ganoid sheen to it. Yeah, pretty neat. When these guys die, their scales just go everywhere. There we go. Thanks, fish. Ooh. Yeah. And gar scale W. There you go. Bloopers. Yeah. Yeah. And Roland says, how did you spot that? That was an extraordinarily obvious one. It was just, there it is. Yeah, I don't know. Your eyes get trained for this sort of thing after a while. You learn what you're looking for, and these things just pop out to you. Yeah. And Misty says, is there a reason why the scales preserve so well? Yes, great question. So, the scales of gar are what we call ganoid scales, so they have a material in there called ganoine. It's similar to like tooth enamel, and it's overlaid over bone. So these guys have bony scales with almost like a tooth enamel over the top. And so that's already a really resilient part of the animal. The harder and more resilient the part is, the more likely it is to be fossilized. That's why you've got a lot of fossil snails and almost no fossil slugs, if that makes sense. The shells on snails are already a hard part, and so it's easy to get groundwater minerals in there after they get buried and, turn it to a fossil, permineralize it. That doesn't happen as readily with just soft, squishy tissue. So gars have got these armored scales all over their bodies, and those are just perfect candidates for easy fossilization, if that makes sense. Yeah. And thank you, Pumpkin the Cat, for the kind words. I appreciate you. This has been fun. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. Yeah. Oh, and Fisher, Mariah Art says, I love synapsids. Goofy critters.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I concur.
Yeah.
It's always been one of my favorite groups.
We are ourselves synapsids, right? Mammals are part of synapsidom?
It's true.
Yeah. And mammals are pretty goofy.
The last surviving...
And there's what, like 4,500 species? Something like that?
Of mammal?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I hear it fluctuates between like 4,000 and 5,500. I hear lots of different figures.
I mean, it's certainly less than birds and fish.
Birds is over 9,000. And Aki says, did I miss the helicopter? No, that's going to be next year. If it happens. Yeah. We'll try and do a stream for that, but we'll see. No guarantees. I really, really want to do a stream for that, but, I'll need special permission to do that. Because it might be a Bureau of Land Management helicopter. And, yeah, Buddy Lightweight says, aren't alligator gar ancient in their own right? Kind of, yeah. Yeah. A couple years ago, I would have said, probably not. There was a really cool paper that came out, I think, last spring. And they did, they were trying to figure out, like, why do alligator gar and, I think, alligator gar and longnose gar, maybe? I forget. There's two species of gar, in North America today that regularly interbreed in the wild, and they produce fertile offspring. So we're not talking about like a donkey and a mule, or a donkey and a horse, producing a mule that's sterile. We're talking about two different species producing a hybrid that is itself fertile, and they do this all the time in the wild. The thing is, those two species we think diverged back in the Cretaceous period. So it's like they've been separate for 80 million years. Again, for about as long as humans have been separate from the elephant lineage, about that much time separating them. And yet they can still interbreed and produce fertile offspring, which is nuts. And so it shows that gar evolve extremely slowly. Like there's been very, very, very little genetic change. And these two species are still extraordinarily similar genetically too. And so, yeah, you could make a case for them being living fossils in the sense that they've barely changed over the past 80 million years. So they are kind of ancient. The gar that were swimming around when these rocks were deposited about 73 million years ago, they would be extraordinarily similar to the gar that we still have today, which is kind of bonkers to think about, right? Yeah. And Kennedy says, what's the typical species in a genus? Oh, it depends on the group. I don't mean how many have been found, but how many would there have been? It seems like some genera have very few and others are in the thousands. So this gets into how, we as human beings, we like to try and put things in neat little boxes. We were talking about this earlier. A genus, for anybody unfamiliar, is a group of closely related species. So think about bears. Is it all bears are part of genus Ursus?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think Panthera. Let's go with that as our example.
Panthera is a better one, thank you, yeah. So Panthera tigris is the tiger. Panthera leo is the lion. So these are closely related animals. They're both big cats like that. Different species, but within the same genus. The genus Panthera is lions and tigers. And some other guys too. Panthera onca, I think, is the jaguar.
That's right, and then Pardus is the leopard.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, these are all different species within the same genus. So Panthera has 4 or 5 different species, maybe more, I don't know. Whereas you've got, I think there's like one genus of ants that has like 11,000 species or something like that. And that's probably like an error in the sense that if there's different species in the same genus, that means they all came from the same ancestor. So I kind of doubt that there was one ancestral ant species that gave rise to 11,000 descendants, 11,000 separate species coming out of that. But I don't know. It might be ants are difficult to work on for some reason. They've been able to figure them out. I'm not sure. Dinosaurs are kind of frustrating in the sense that most dinosaur genera, like for instance, what's a good example? Dilophosaurus. Dilophosaurus is a genus. Dilophosaurus weatherali is a species. We only have one species of Dilophosaurus. Dilophosaurus weatherali. The same is true for the vast majority of all dinosaur genera that have been named. Yeah, there's only been one species discovered. And so for most intents and purposes, a dinosaur genus is kind of roughly equivalent to a species. If it's a monospecific genus, it's like, That's why when we're referring to most dinosaurs, like, we just use the genus name. At least in, like, conversation. Coelophysis. There's Coelophysis boweri, and I don't know of any other Coelophysis species. Unless you like Coelophysis rhodesiensis or whatever. But, yeah. So part of that is just that it's really difficult to, like, tell the difference between species and genera in dinosaurs. And so, yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Fisher? It sounded like you had something to add, yeah.
Yeah, in dinosaurs it's particularly cool. In more recent taxa, it's a little easier.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's at least 3 species of Paleoloxodon from the Pleistocene.
Uh-huh.
And then all the different, like bison and horses.
Mm-hmm.
Where they actually fall within the same genus as the modern animals.
Right, yeah. So if you just find something that looks like a modern bison, but bigger and with a few interesting characteristics, it might be bison antiquus or bison latifrons?
Latifrons.
Yeah. I was thinking of bison, what's the one that Marsh named when he found the Triceratops horn? He called it bison alticornis, maybe?
It sounds familiar, but
I forget.
Latifrons and antiquus are the ones that come to mind immediately. Okay, well.
And we had a question about whether X-rays could be used rather than ground-penetrating radar. No, it's kind of the same issue. Where like you'd be trying to tell rock from rock. Fossil bones are like partially turned to rock, and so trying to find differences there is really tricky. Find fossils is just by walking around and looking at the ground. We look for bone texture, we look for symmetry in the stuff that we pick up, and then that's how we can identify it as bone. It's a skill that requires practice, but you know, after a few years, you get pretty good at it. And that's the best and most efficient way of doing that. If you're walking around with a big X-ray machine, you're not going to get much work done. You're not going to cover much. In order to find a good dinosaur skeleton, you might have to hike miles and miles. Yeah, on average, you do a lot of walking before you find something. Okay, we've got this layer here. Getting down to the coal here. Look at that. Yeah. All right, so this area done. I can move this way. And Heel says that's job security right there. What? Not having X-rays. Sure. I mean, you say job security, but it's not like any of us are getting paid. Oh, and where would you put the film/sensor on the inside of the mountain, says Treckner? That's a good point, too. I forgot X-rays need that. They need a thing on either side. Yeah. Oh, and that one guy, you were asking about the Ceratopsian site from last year. So yeah, we got started on that this year and then just hit a wall. Like, literally. There was just a wall of really, really hard sandstone. And some of our other sites were easier to work, and they just became the priority. We can come back to that site next year, but we've got some much more vulnerable sites this year that we really need to finish out first, like the Ankylosaur site, like the Purple Puzzle site. And so, yeah, the Ceratopsian is going to be on hold until next year, it looks like. Oh boy, all right. Just moving big chunks here. Yeah, I think we might finish this out like tomorrow.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Yeah. Jim says rock saw? We could use the rock saw for that, but I kind of wonder whether the sandstone is too tough for the rock saw. Like, we're talking about 6-foot thick blocks of just super concreted sand. Jim, I contacted Liz Friedman Fowler about this to see if we could get some advice. She encountered very similar things at the Rocky Bone Bed up in Rudyard, Montana, where they were digging up it's a whole Gripposaurus bone bed there. And she used masonry drills and expanding bentonitic clay to break apart the rock and remove it in chunks. And I think that might be a much better method than using like a big heavy gas-powered rock saw that can only kind of slowly cut through things. I don't know. Ethan was also talking about using a masonry drill and then just using like masonry chisel things. Nick Oliver was talking about this too. He's done it before with granite. But I also wonder whether that is actually going to work properly. Granite, I think, tends to be a little bit less... I don't know, granite is much more lightweight and I think less resilient than this kind of sandstone. I think we might need that expanding clay, but we'll see. Yeah. And that one guy, yeah, I know it is kind of frustrating that we know that there could be more of a Ceratopsian skull in there. We don't know for sure. That might be it. But we know that these other sites definitely have important new dinosaurs in them, and so we need to get those out ASAP. So it's just a question of priorities. You know, it's not a question of finishing what we start. It's a question of we don't want these other sites to get destroyed. In the meantime, we got to focus on them. We know the Ceratopsian site is safe for another year. Yeah. Rock drills and feathers and wedges. Feathers and wedges are amazing. Yeah, Jim, that's what Nick Oliver was talking about. So we'll see. We might try that before we try the expanding clay. But we'll see what Ethan thinks. Right now, he's just so focused on getting this ankylosaur excavated. It's all hands on deck over there. I think Fisher and I are the only ones not at that site out of a crew of 20 plus people right now. It's just us here at Turtle Hill, and everybody else is focusing on the ankylosaur.
We'll be there soon enough, it seems.
Yeah. Maybe Friday we'll be there.
Good day or two of work left here before we're finished.
Thanks for the explanation. You bet. That one guy, yeah, of course. And Jim says, being an ankylosaur researcher, yeah. I know how eager you are to see that, Jim. Hopefully that'll be a big priority in terms of fossil prep. I don't know if that one's going to Cincy or if it's going to Pittsburgh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Given that it was discovered early on, I would imagine
Probably
it's Cincinnati.
Yeah. Feels good to be cutting through this and just like making a lot of progress very quickly, even if it means not finding a lot of stuff because there's nothing there. It's nice to be able to be like, yeah, we're shrinking the bench. Yeah. Lup Looper says, I know there are a lot of dinosaur fun facts, but are there any wholesome dinosaur facts? What do you mean? Like heartwarming dinosaur facts? We know that dinosaurs like Maiasaura, and probably other hadrosaurs, cared for their young. We know that they brought them food in the nest just like birds do today. Does that sort of thing count?
I know emperor penguins, if they lose their chick, they'll incubate blocks of ice because their urge to, be a parent is so strong.
Uh-huh. So they'll just melt blocks of ice.
But they'll also kidnap their neighbors' babies, so that's not so wholesome, is it?
Jeez, wow. Yeah. Yeah, like something that'll make you go, oh, there you go, Lup Loopers. Okay. And yeah, Maiasaura means good mother lizard. The spy, yeah. Yeah. Or good mother reptile, however you want to translate saurus. And yeah, Scorchhill Ferret, that's a good one too. Oviraptor. Yeah, so there was a dinosaur called Oviraptor that was discovered in the 1920s. It was named in 1924. Interesting bird-like dinosaur. And it was named Oviraptor the egg thief because the original skeleton was found on top of a nest of dinosaur eggs, with its skull crushed. And it was assumed that, since this was the only oviraptor anybody had ever found, there's another dinosaur called Protoceratops that's everywhere in that formation. They're just all over the place. They're super common. They said, oh, well, these eggs are all over the place, and these Protoceratops are all over the place. These must be Protoceratops eggs. And this oviraptor, with its toothless beak and its grasping hands, it must have been a specialized egg thief. It must have been stealing these Protoceratops eggs, and then maybe an angry mother Protoceratops came over and just smashed its head. And that's how we got it preserved on top of this nest. And so, for a long time, all of these illustrations that you would see in books and articles and stuff like that would show, like, just kind of like raptor going like, just like holding protos and cracking them open and eating them. So it was kind of villainized like that almost. The egg thief, Oviraptor. It's in the very name. And then, in the 1990s, the American Museum of Natural History in New York went back to Mongolia, and they found more of those eggs. And they found more oviraptorosaurs sitting on top of them. Like, what's the deal? Like, why are these oviraptors just constantly getting killed on top of Protoceratops eggs? And it turns out that's not what was happening. Those were oviraptor eggs. The oviraptors were sitting on the nests to incubate them, just like mother birds do today, and father birds too. And that's, the name stuck, oviraptor, but we now think of them not as egg thieves, but as devoted parents, trying to protect these eggs from whatever cataclysm buried them. So, yeah. True Love says, where can I see the preservation of oviraptors? So, you mean like oviraptor fossils? They used to have some at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, but I want to say they've all been returned to Mongolia at this point. I could be wrong. There might still be some there. But I know you can see them in Mongolia, so the next time you're vacationing in Ulaanbaatar, go to the museum and check out the oviraptorosaurs there. Yeah. And that one guy says, maybe the oviraptor-filled mockingbird subwent of the environment took out other dinosaur eggs to fill with theirs. You're thinking of a cuckoo, I think. I don't think mockingbirds do that. But, no, it turns out you open up the eggs and there's oviraptor embryos inside. And it turns out that's just the shape of oviraptor eggs. I don't know if we have Protoceratops eggs at all. It could be that they laid soft-shelled eggs, which are more difficult to preserve. I think that might be the current consensus on ceratops, is that they had soft shells, and so they're much less likely to be fossilized, which is why we haven't really found them yet. And Squiggles says, I'll keep that in mind the next time I book a trip to Ulaanbaatar. Yeah. It's really like the only city in the entire country of Mongolia. There's like more than 1 million people who live there. It's like super urban and concentrated, and I'm pretty sure it's like the only city in the entire country. Everything else is pasture land and desert and Mongolian steppe. And don't yawn, it's making me yawn. Sorry.
He's a sleepy.
Got these nice clouds. This is great. And Triceratops 79 says, Danny, you've picked up a lot of facts and knowledge over your years of study. How important is memorization in learning or teaching science to youngsters, in your opinion? I don't think it's that important, honestly. I don't know. Like, rote memorization, I think, is probably one of the... I'm not good at it. I think it's one of those things that can make learning painful, so I don't tend to emphasize rote memorization. Some people really enjoy it, though. Not me. I think if you're really passionate about something and you read a lot about it, you just tend to remember it. But that being said, there's a few songs that I want to write to like help people remember like the different geological time periods and stuff like that. You know, sometimes a song can help you remember things, but that's a lot less painful than like rote memorization. So yeah. And Nathan says, are bones worth money? Well, I don't know. I know people have paid a lot of money to mobsters to... Yeah, sure. Is that what you meant? Yeah. But if you're talking about the bones that we're finding here, you know, this is little tiny fish bones, little pieces of turtle, stuff like that. These are scientifically valuable. They are priceless in a scientific sense. We wouldn't dream of selling these because there are some things that are more important than money. Things like scientific knowledge. That's why we're out here in the first place, you know. We're not getting paid to be on this crew right now and to do this work. We're doing this because we're passionate about it and we find it really fulfilling, you know. There are very few places I would rather be right now, and I think the same is true for Fisher.
Yep, absolutely.
So, yeah. Be careful not to let a lust for money rob you of your humanity, you know? That happens to way too many people.
Money can facilitate your dreams, but it can't make them come true. Wait, that doesn't make sense. So,
it can eradicate them, but it
Yes.
can't exterminate them.
yes, so what I meant to say is that money will never make you happy in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Having money can facilitate you finding joy in your life.
Sure, it can make things more
So-
comfortable, it can give you
Yes.
opportunities, but money itself isn't worth anything.
Yes.
You know? It can make you miserable, in fact, if you have too much of it. And I'm kind of convinced that every person who has too much money is miserable. Just personal experience, what I've seen in my life so far. But, yeah. Oh, Dusty Bones, 1 million kroner. Yeah. Guy B says, health and safety question, what SPF is your sunscreen? It's all the same after 30, so I use 30. But, yeah. And Murph says, most of the richest people I know are a miserable sort. It tends to be true, yeah. Yeah. Hey, Fisher, how much for this happiness and fulfillment?
Self-made importance. 72 kroner.
That seems like a fair price to pay.
It's like Malamon is here, having me do bits.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
It's fine, I'm happy to do it. I love to make people laugh.
Yeah. And Salt Pestilence says, okay, as a Scandinavian, I need to know the background for this ongoing joke. just having fun, just goofing around. Yeah. I don't know how you started it. I think it's just a fun accent to do.
Yeah. Yep, I think that's the long and short of it.
It's, you know, it's meant out of admiration and
Yeah.
love. We're not making fun of anybody in Scandinavia. Or if we are, it's, you know, it's all in good
It's
fun.
not you.
Yeah. And Suryogi one says, so glad you said that about SPF. Not many are aware. Yeah. I'm not a dermatologist. I'm not a chemist. Yeah. But from what I've read, basically anything above SPF 30, sun protection factor 30, is functionally the same. It's like one of those graphs where it kind of plateaus. And so after 30, like, you could get SPF 100, and you're going to have the same sun protection that you would have from SPF 30. What actually matters is how often you reapply it and how thorough you are. That's my understanding. And whether it's broad spectrum versus non-broad spectrum. You want to protect against UVB, but 30 is really all you need. Yeah. Bill says it's such a good bit. Oh, and Salt Pestilent, who is Scandinavian, says, I'm impressed by the accent, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sir Yogi one says, we've been told 35 in Australia since the 80s. Well, there, you know, I'm sure there's kind of a currency exchange thing going on between American and Australian SPF, but yeah. Yeah. Dr. Morbius says, if you're going to spend more than 30 hours in the sun, you need higher SPF? Well, over the course of your lifetime? Shoot. I spent a lot more than 30 hours in the sun this month. But, no, from what I've been told, like, hearing this from dermatologists and, like, chemists, basically, it was like I was saying. Above 30, you have minimal return for every SPF that you go up. It's much more important that you apply, like, that you reapply and that you're thorough in doing that. Yeah. Australia's on the metric system. There you go, HD. Yeah. Yeah. Queen Dark Lady says it would be really hard to spend more than 30 hours in the sun in a day. I didn't even think about that, but you might be right. Yeah. Unless you're, you know, above the Arctic Circle during the summer. I don't know. I remember being in the field with somebody who had SPF 150, and they spent like $100 a bottle on this, and they were just getting absolutely scammed. They were extraordinarily pale, but yeah, it's not like more SPF equals better. And what was funny is that I don't think it even protected against UVB. So like their SPF 150 that they paid like $100 for was less effective than my SPF 30 or 15 or whatever I was using at the time. Yeah. Anywho. That's the thing, they charge more. Exactly. Yeah. SPF 150, is that just latex paint? It was ridiculous. And yeah, I don't know. They did not want to hear that that was ineffective, though. Like, people get very, very defensive about their SPF. It's, I don't know. People don't like to hear that they're being scammed. I think that's kind of universally true. Yeah. Got something?
I've got two things. It might be some of the last Turtle Hill
Nice.
specimens of the year.
A ribby guy and a scully thing?
And this doesn't look ribby to me at all.
No?
I mean, look at it closely.
Let's see. Ooh, yeah. What's going on there? Weird cross section. That could be another chevron.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, and it splits at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, vertebral chevron.
I guess.
How much for that, Fisher?
Unknown fish chevron. 68 krona.
Nice. Yeah. Danny licking the ground to get it better. I was not licking the ground. I was using my jewelry loop. We're professionals. We don't need to lick things to tell whether or not they're bones. That's something that you teach to noobs or donors at your site. It's a neat little, like, party trick that it works most of the time. But, I don't know. We've been doing this long enough. We don't need to do that. Look at all that rain out there.
Yeah.
We're missing that. Although I don't even know if that's reaching the ground. See how it just kind of
Yeah.
like... I wonder if it's evaporating before it actually makes groundfall.
Entirely possible.
This is such a dry environment that, like, if clouds are dropping rain and they're high enough, it might completely dissipate, just evaporate before it hits the ground. That's what's going on out there.
Cloud cover is nice.
It is, yeah.
Must admit. Yes, I'm still wearing the city helmet. I guess it's a fashion statement at this point.
Makes you identifiable to the viewers. Kennedy says, I commissioned a chibi of Danny, and the artist is in Sweden, so PayPal tells me how many krona I'm paying. Are you pulling our legs, Kennedy?
Tiny Danny. 58 krona.
Not too shabby, yeah. I don't know if it should be high or low. What would I be most flattered by? I think I should be affordable. All right, it's 5:30 right now. You want to go till like 6 or 7? What are you thinking?
I was hoping I would just pop these two out and then maybe we can finish up. Pop them out, glue them, get the backs.
Sounds good to me.
Get them wrapped.
Yeah.
Because the rest is just kind of like blasting through this mostly unfossiliferous stuff.
Cool.
And then cleaning up. So yeah, I think this is a pull out tomorrow.
Nice, okay. I could even start, if you want to work through the last of this tomorrow, since we're kind of running out of space, I can work on helping obscure the site.
Sure.
Yeah, neat. And that one guy says, the gift shop in my local Natural Museum is selling authentic T-Rex and Megalodon teeth. I pretty much guarantee you that they're not authentic Tyrannosaurus teeth, that one guy. Those will go for hundreds or thousands of dollars on eBay. So I kind of doubt that they're in a museum gift shop. But, yeah. They very well might be casts. A lot of museums will sell exact replicas, molded and cast replicas of the real thing. And that's honestly a much better collector's item because it's much less delicate. It's much more durable. You don't have to worry too much about like humidity changes and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about it falling apart. Yeah. So that's what I would guess for that. I've got several Tyrannosaurus tooth casts at home and a lot of 3D printed ones as well. I wouldn't want to have a real one at home because, well, shoot, what do I want to do at home with a Tyrannosaurus tooth? Like, I'm collecting these things for museums. That's so they can be used for science. Something in a personal collection, you know, where moth and rust can destroy, the scripture goes. You want those things in a museum, you know? Yeah. And Murph says, how will you close this for the season? Backfill? So we're going to create like a big man trap here with some punji sticks at the bottom. And it's going to take a while to do.
Emptying our toilet over here.
Under the spikes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, we'll just remove all of our gear from here. We might do a little bit of backfill, that kind of thing, but
we'll do backfill.
Yeah.
We'll make the high wall look more natural.
Yeah.
And then we'll let the rain do the rest.
We'll bring in some baby rattlesnakes and scatter them around. We'll have a big mean dog on a chain. That kind of thing. Landmines. Yeah. And that is weird, that one guy. They're selling them for thousands of dollars. They've searched saying that they're allegedly authentic. It is bizarre for, like, any museum that's selling what could be scientifically important fossils. That's suspect, to say the least. Yeah. Like, I don't know. There's a museum in Utah that is selling a very important dinosaur specimen at auction, and it really makes me want to say, yeah, they're not a real museum because of this, so I don't know.
What I've heard is that it was sold to a molding and casting company, and the company sold it off to auction.
Okay. Still, like...
I mean, it's still really upsetting, right?
But yeah, anyway. But yeah, I'm not going to name any names. Not right now, at least. Not until I have more information. But yeah. And Petrodactylus says, yeah, I can't help but feel that there's more of a story to it. It's hard to imagine a museum selling off such an amazing specimen like that. Yeah. There is going to be more to the story. But there are some other questionable things that museum has done in the past, too. So it's like... yeah, I don't know. I know that the people who work in paleo at that museum are not happy about this, but it's not up to them. So, yeah. We'll talk about this more when I'm out of the field and have a chance to read more about it and talk to some folks and actually have more or less the full story on it. But this won't be the last time we talk about that. I can tell you that. And shoot, that's lousy, that one guy. Skulls, teeth, etc. There's a few places. There are also a few places that aren't actually like museums, but really are kind of showrooms. Yeah. There's a museum in South Dakota that's kind of notorious for this. They end up selling a lot of fossils, and yeah, I don't know. I'm sure this will come up again when we talk about the Ceratosaurus situation. Anywho. So I don't know if we're going to make it to 200 specimens, at least in terms of numbers for this site.
Nope.
We need 12 more. I don't know if we're going to get that in just this amount of rock.
191 was the last one I did.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be 192.
Okay.
And that'll probably be the last one, because the Melvius vert that I pulled out earlier is 140-8.
Mm-hmm. You don't suspect we'll get anything else out of this?
I'm doubtful.
Okay. Huh. Okay.
But I mean, that's still,
Close to 200 is really good.
yeah, and that's not accounting for every bag that has more than one element in it.
Right. I mean, it is kind of
Yeah.
arbitrary saying 191 when there's way more specimens in there.
Every single vial that we have, I mean, like, we're on our 3rd vial of Melvius teeth.
Mm-hmm. Here's some
Raindrops.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Well, let's see, what time is it?
It is 5:35.
We might as well just
Wrap
close
it up?
out.
Yeah, that's fair.
We're gonna have,
Because this might get worse.
yeah, it's not, tomorrow is not gonna be a long day here.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, cool. I'll go ahead and wrap up the stream then. Don't go away just yet, chat. Big thanks to Fisher for being a big part of this stream and keeping things interesting.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Fish.
Always
Thanks for expertise.
appreciate your viewership, your donations, your questions, your passion, and your love. I don't know.
Thank you for your love, chat. We love you too. Here, put this up here. There we go. Excellent. Well, let's find somebody to raid into. Maybe somebody else doing some science right now. As the raindrops start to fall. Who have we got? Who's on here? Home, following. Let's see. Casey Snowart. Yeah, let's go right into Casey. She's on her partner push. We were talking about that earlier. That'll be really good. All right. Raid. Casey Snowart. Not Rain D. Raid. Autocorrect. Beautiful. All right. Everybody wish us some luck as I might get rained on here. Shoot, Fisher's working on getting these things wrapped up. I'm going to wrap up the stream. Thank you, everybody, for another fun stream. This was it's kind of an intimate one, you know? Glad I got to get some work done on stream, too. This has been such a privilege to be able to share Turtle Hill and these other sites with you here. Got some really good specimens this year. You know, good friends, good fossils. It's been good. This is day 26. I'll be doing hopefully 3 more streams from the field before we wrap up on Monday. So, but we'll see. Could be more, could be less. But yeah, thank you for your viewership, your attention, your questions, your enthusiasm. Thank you for your financial support. Thank you so much for getting us to that goal where we could pay for that plaster. I am deeply, deeply grateful for that, and Ethan is going to be stoked. So thank you so much. Thank you, moderators, for keeping this a safe and welcoming community for everybody. Thank you to the raiders and the followers and even those lurkers getting those viewership numbers up. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. We're going to go right into Casey Snowart. Everybody, you all take care of yourselves, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow for another stream. We shall see. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.